All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
I'm Eric.
And today we have two guests that are joining us. We have Hyun, who's returning, and we also have Stan, otherwise known as Dude Magai, on Discord. Thank you all for coming by. We're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake again. If you all missed the news recently, I highly doubt you did, but there's a recent trailer that just debuted for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It was a surprise trailer. I wasn't really expecting it, and we're excited to really start getting into that. Some of the things we observed, and just seeing what maybe we can expect in the future. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. So let me go ahead and pull up the trailer so we can just dive right in. How y'all doing today, by the way?
Doing good.
Good. Cool.
Yeah.
Doing fantastic.
I'm alive.
Well, that's positive. All right, so I got the trailer pulled up here. Obviously, this was at the State of Play presentation. Before we jump into that real quick, were you all expecting this trailer to show, or was it a surprise to you all when it did? I was kind of caught off guard. I knew there was some rumors, but we get rumors all the time regarding there might be a Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer. This might appear here. So I thought this was probably another one of those rumors. I didn't think we were going to see anything till E3. And then I don't know, I was watching this just an off chance there would be. And out of the middle of nowhere, it just starts playing. And it's not just a screenshot. They're playing new characters we haven't seen revealed yet, and I was really, really surprised. So I'm kind of interested to see if y'all had a similar reaction.
I mean, how awful the last State of Play was, I was expecting something maybe equally as bad, or they're going to try to step it up this time. And granted, they did. So when there's about a minute left, and I'm looking at my watch, I'm like, this State of Play was 6 minutes long. Even the Nintendo Directs are at least a half hour. Well, and they're oh, by the way, we're going to show you one last thing. And it was the Final Fantasy VII trailer. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I could say this was a better State of Play. Yeah. I mean, people on Discord were saying it might come up. So I had a little bit of an expectancy of it, but I was still ready to be disappointed.
Dude, I was on the edge of my seat because I started watching it from the beginning. And right before they started the entire presentation for all the other games, you heard the sound effect for the Final Fantasy VII menu. It was just you just opened up the menu, and immediately it hit me that's the Final Fantasy VII menu sound. But then it's playing all these other games, and I was wondering is that just a common sound? Is that just am I overthinking this? And I was trying to piece together why that was played. Stan, you heard it too?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting anything, but I don't know, maybe another screenshot or something, and tune into E3. But when that little sound, which I think is just the sound effect for when you hit a new game, it played at the very beginning, and then I was like, well, now they have to. They have to show something significant, because you can't just have that sound effect in there as a tease and then show nothing. Yeah, there's going to be something here now, something significant.
Here's a screenshot of Kate said, "See you in 5 years."
Well, I saw a funny comment. Because at the end of the trailer, it says, "Look forward for more in June. Stay tuned." But somebody said they didn't say what year, right? So.
That's a very good point. I mean, that might be 2030.
Yeah.
Yeah, way to worry me now. This is someone said before. I was getting to the point that I just stopped caring about the FF7 remake, and then it just popped up. I'm like, oh man, now I want to play it.
Yeah.
But it was actually you, Ian, who was giving me the rumors that it may pop up in the State of Play. So that's why I went on and watched it to begin with.
Well, yeah.
Well, it kind of made sense the more I thought about it, because You know, the fact that like Sony was not going to be at E3 this summer, and like we were talking in previous podcasts, I was surprised that Sony would not be at E3 if they knew this game was going to, you know, appear, because this game has always been a big deal for the PlayStation. So I started thinking about it, like, well, if they're not going to be there and they want like to get some of the attention, this would be a good opportunity for them to get that. So it started to make sense to me when I started thinking about it more. But
yeah, I wasn't really surprised, but that doesn't surprise people, I suppose, that I wasn't surprised about it. But I mean, first and foremost, they did say that they were going to make announcements leading up to E3. So I was kind of expecting them to do something prior to E3. Of course, they had a little diversion with the concert. So a lot of people were expecting the trailer to drop at the concert and not earlier. So we're probably going to get the extended cut version at the concert, and then we're going to get the alternate extended cut version at E3, right? Along the lines of what they did with Kingdom Hearts 3. But first and foremost, there was this analyst whom I can't remember the name of, but a lot of other YouTubers have referenced him. He's, decently accurate with his reports and with his predictions, who said that they were going to do like he was hinting strongly at them, kind of putting out a trailer for the remake, and he was pretty early with that. So you have the analyst dude come out and say that, and then you had, well, basically Square Enix themselves saying that they were going to make announcements leading up to E3, and then on top of that, of course, it's the fact that any kind of announcement is basically overdue, right? Because
it's been so long.
The game was supposed to already have been out, right? According to Uematsu. So it's like, it's surprising, I guess, mostly if you're a cynic, right? And most people are cynical, and for good reason, right? Because we're talking about Square Enix here. So
hey, if we're cynical, it's because Square Enix made us this way.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's if you look at sort of the temperature in the comment sections of various videos on Final Fantasy 7 Remake, you find all sorts of people, and most people are like, "Oh, see you in 2035," right, when the game releases. And that's kind of been I think that's the general kind of feeling about the game. But from where I'm standing, we're kind of long overdue for this, so I wasn't surprised. Talking from that perspective, right? Talking from the other perspective, I definitely wasn't surprised, but that's a different story.
Yeah. You know, like I don't think that necessarily I was shocked. I would say that we got some kind of information. I think the biggest thing that I was probably most surprised about, though, was the amount of things we actually saw in the trailer. Me and Eric were talking in a previous episode that we thought the first reveal of Final Fantasy VII Remake since, the last trailers we got like 4 years ago would be something in typical Square Enix style, where it's like, like a picture or like a screenshot, and then like maybe like an 8-second little like video and like see you soon or something like that. And then like it would just like, drive everyone nuts for another year and a half. So once this trailer started playing and we started seeing like all these characters, and we saw characters that we've never even seen before in the remake, I should say, with Aerith and Sephiroth and everything, like I was just like, wow, like they're just like throwing it out there that they have all this content. So I think that's the thing I was most surprised about, was just how much they showed us. Because even though it is only a minute-long trailer, like it rarely stayed on a single scene more than like a second or two, and it went through like, I would say maybe like the first 6 or 7 hours of the original game, maybe a little less than that, probably maybe 4 or 5. And obviously, they're fleshing the game out and everything like that, so it's probably going to take longer to go through those story sequences in the remake. But I think they showed us quite a bit that I wasn't expecting.
A little more detailed version of the opening bombing mission that we saw in the last trailer. Just like
Mhm.
everything looks revised. You saw a little bit of gameplay with Cloud, Eris, and Tifa, who you don't get to see. You get to see Eris play, but not Tifa. And
Yeah.
um, so you got a little bit of, I would assume, after they reunite after Don Corneo's mansion,
Mhm.
a little bit in there.
Well,
but I
should
assume,
I
but that
should I just
opening
pull the
bombing mission, mostly what we got.
yeah? Should I just pull the trailer up and we can get into it then?
Get into it. Let's do it.
Cool. All right,
It's
so
mostly-
I'm gonna pull the trailer up. I'm gonna be playing it right here, and then as we come across things that we want to bring up or address, I'll go ahead and go to that point in the trailer, and that way y'all can see what they're talking about. So I'm hitting play right now. It looks like it starts off at the beginning of the game, like we know from the original, where you see her just kind of praying in that alley, and I don't know. That was very, very nostalgic for me. Just seeing that come down, it took me back to when I was a kid and I first popped the disc in. I think that was a really cool way to start off the trailer.
It's worth noting that they redesigned the soldiers, right? The Shinra infantrymen are completely, well, they're not completely different, but they've gone from like the chrome helmets and
Yeah.
the chrome shoulder pads to these kind of Prometheus looking sci-fi designs, right?
They don't look as intimidating.
I don't know. Well, I don't know about that, but they look kind of. It's worth noting that I think the original designs actually had like whitish shoulder pads, right? They did, and then they had blue helmets. So like they never had chrome helmets in the original game to begin with. But I mean, the shoulder pads are actually more true, being white to the original design. I think, if I remember correctly, I might be wrong. Actually, I want to look that up.
Yeah, because
But,
when I compare what they showed in 2015 and to today, the one I see today, it's like they look a lot more scary and like soldiers you don't want to mess with. And when I look at the 2019 version here, it kind of reminds me more of how they looked in the original, in terms of course, they're intimidating, they're soldiers, but like it could be open to scenes like where Cloud disguises himself at Junin. And
Sure.
I think the way they're designed here can probably be a little more believable, that the soldiers can be goofy or like off the clock personality type of deal.
I'm actually going to post this in the chat so you can see it, so you have a reference to what the original actually looks like. So obviously they no longer have like the bandana covering the face that they had in the original, and the helmet is no longer blue. But looking at it now, I actually think, at least with the shoulder pads being more whitish, actually looks kind of truer to the original designs than the designs that we saw previously that had like the chrome shine thing. And it also kind of looks, those designs look kind of silly. I don't know. I just always thought that looked kind of silly. Like, why are they wearing these like shiny, like almost medieval-esque helmets? Now it actually looks like kind of army-ish in a way, right? As more cyberpunk-ish. As I said, it reminds me a lot of sort of designs that you see in movies like Prometheus. If you look at the spacesuits and the stuff and the interfaces and the tech that you see in that movie, it's very similar. So it harkens to a more solid kind of sci-fi vibe than the earlier designs that just kind of looked weird and you don't really know where to place them.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, this new design, and I don't want to call it new. I think it's just more updated, right? It is very in keeping in certain ways. I think, like you said, like the shoulder pads and like the general feeling you get from looking at the image, they did keep a lot of the same imagery. But I mean, it would have just been a little goofy if they just had them wearing these big bright blue suits. I mean, it just would have been a little. I don't think it would have fit with the realism for this game.
But also worth noting, they actually have the bandana around their neck. They just don't have it up across their face. So that's actually like the detail is there. They just don't cover their faces with them like the original models did. That's
right.
pretty cool.
looking at actually Crisis Core's designs of them, and they do have like the scarf around their neck, and they have the mask covering their face except their eyes.
Yeah, sure.
On top of that, so yeah, Crisis Core even went by more the original design, and I'm looking at. I have so many things.
I mean, the original design, they have like the bandana up to like their eyes, like covering their actual. I wonder if they're gonna do that, but that would be kind of cool. I'd like to see what that looks like.
Maybe in more like extreme conditions, like if they're in the
Yeah.
cold or in the heat, they may put that up.
I'd like
I
to see
think
it.
maybe the original reason that they had it up always in the first place is so they didn't have to animate a face or anything.
Obviously, yeah, making human-looking faces in that level of polygon graphics is a bit of a stretch, obviously.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
that was pretty exciting to see how faithful they were being to the original designs while kind of changing it in small ways to make it fit a little bit better for a modern take on the story. I think that was really, really exciting for me.
At 0.16 seconds, you can see like how Cloud is squaring off against the two soldiers, and then you can see Barrett actually running past the soldiers, and you can actually glimpse like the legs of either Jesse or Biggs in the background running through the door. So they're like in the original game, everybody knows like Barrett runs first, and then you follow Barrett, and then the two soldiers come running out of the door that Barrett just left from, which of course makes no sense. But it's like they've actually preserved that, and it makes even less sense now, right? Because it's all real and stuff. So like, why are the soldiers attacking Cloud and just like Barrett's like just running along with his giant, massive gun arm?
Barrett's a big fellow; he's hard to miss.
Yeah, but it's it's like frame for frame true to the original, like interesting, even though it's totally bizarre.
It kind of looks like he's sneaking behind them, like they're focused on Cloud, and he gets off the train and like goes to the side of them.
Maybe it will make sense.
He may have like jumped off the train, kind of already behind them, so they're already maybe Cloud jumps off first, or which wouldn't be correct, but
he's like
they may be approaching Cloud already, and then Barrett sees his opportunity to jump off and take off towards the goal, towards the objective.
That's such a douchebag thing to do. Like, he could just shoot the soldiers in the back, right? Just save Cloud the trouble. He's like, "Fuck off, Cloud," and he's just running off. Like, gee, man, thanks.
It's like you used to be in Soldier, right? Yeah, let's just
you deal with it.
I will say this is obviously the scene where like Aerith's walking down the street, and then it goes up to saying Final Fantasy VII, then it goes down to this scene. The only thing I can hope they do is just keep it that way, because there's a lot going on in just the intro of that scene alone. And I would hate it if they have some like young girl like having children narrating what's going on while that's happening, and then they go to it and be like,
that's pretty dodgy, right? Because they've said earlier that in an interview that they weren't going to open the game with the same intro sequence, and and also on top of that, like if you look at the original teaser trailer that they released, right, the one that's purely CG, the one that they released at first, there's scenes of like the original Avalanche members infiltrating a reactor, right? The ones from before Crisis, like, because in the extended universe or whatever, the compilation that stretches far into the past, Avalanche was a like a terrorist cell that existed prior to the events of Final Fantasy VII, and they had an army and a hierarchy and stuff like that, and they had their own soldiers. And the first soldiers that you see infiltrating the reactor in like the first scenes of that trailer are almost identical to the before Crisis designs of the.
You're talking the very first trailer that was released.
The very first trailer. They have some scenes of some soldiers infiltrating a reactor, right? They're wearing sunglasses and bandanas and holding machine guns, right? Yeah. And those soldiers, they match the designs of the before Crisis Avalanche members. So putting those two and two together, it almost because they're talking about expanding Midgar, right? And it's a new continuity, and they're rewriting the script and everything. And so we're facing a real possibility here of this being actually already kind of out in the game, and that they're opening it up somewhere entirely different with sequences that predate this moment, right? Which is very scary, but it's a possibility. Just people be braced for changes. That's all I'm saying.
Even the change down to that level, I feel like that's like the one thing that you would definitely want to keep in. It's just how it opened, and just try to show a modern version of it to woo in the veteran players. But if they don't even have that, then it's like they're going in ballsy.
Well, and you got to keep in mind that like this game has gone through various different changes throughout the years, and you know, and we had somebody else developing the game, and now it's back in house. And I kind of wonder if perhaps initially they thought, okay, we're going to completely reimagine this game to be something new. But now that we've seen this latest, most recent trailer, and the fact that it is so faithful to the original, I still think obviously they're expanding the story, but I wonder if they're going to try to be a little bit more conscious of the original fans and maybe keep that original intro in, but maybe just expand it a little bit more, right? I think that would suck me right in if they could just keep that going, right, just like the original. I mean, I would just be all in. I'd be eating it up and just smiling while I'm playing the game.
Yeah, and I don't know. I still wonder how much we will get of the extended universe. And I know they said one time that they won't depend on the extended universe because it's a reimagining, but that still doesn't really answer if they will. Obviously, I don't think we'll get like Gact or Genesis back because unless they redesign the character to not look like Gact. But
Yeah.
I think how far they're willing to stretch into that, because I don't think diverging more into how Avalanche was created was something necessarily bad to look into. I do remember the origins is supposed to be at Cosmo Canyon.
Yeah.
How Avalanche was created, and Cosmo Canyon doesn't come off as a place that of people who use aggressive militaristic means to.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of stretching that, right? I think Barrett says something about Avalanche being born from Cosmo Canyon when you visit there and they're around the campfire. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, he does. I remember that.
Yeah, so like, but I kind of feel like they're expanding it way too much, and I feel like they're doing it kind of a disservice because when you're thinking about a terrorist cell, I don't generally think of like almost like a military thing, right? I think of a bunch of people with a similar ideology kind of getting together and figuring things out, and it's kind of down low, and they're working under their means and stuff like that.
I mean, I could see why they would want to pick from a storytelling perspective Cosmo Canyon, because obviously right there, that's where you really learn as a player in the initial game a lot about what's going on with the planet. And then, you know, you could tie in the fact that there's a lot of like caves and stuff in there, which would be good, like kind of like as a hideout. But Avalanche doesn't have a hideout in Cosmo Canyon, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Like I agree with that. That's my point is more like I understand Avalanche as a concept being born from Cosmo Canyon, if that makes sense. That you have like these hippies, you have these hippies, right, who believe that Shinra is destroying the planet, and then some of those people go extreme, and then they become terrorists. That makes sense to me, but making it sound like you had a military organization being born in Cosmo Canyon, and that they had this kind of war with Shinra, and they had these soldiers and stuff like that. It just sounds kind of cooler and more grounded to me if it's just a small group of these extreme hippies who researched how to make bombs on the internet or whatever the fuck, right? And they kind of made do with what they had, and it's just this scrappy little crew of kind of idealistic hippies, right? Which is what you've seen, right?
Yeah, you could even compare Barrett. Like Barrett was just a miner in Coraltown,
Yeah.
And now he's like a leader of a eco-terrorist group taking out reactors.
Yeah, exactly. But they explain that within the context of the compilation as if sort of the reason that's going on is because the former proper organization of Avalanche fell apart, right? But I'm like, why did you do that like that? That they didn't need to do that, right? It could have just been they have like this philosophy growing out of Cosmo Canyon, and then you have these small cells of these amateurs, these hippies, right? They listen to this crap and they're like, oh, Shinra's so bad, destroying the planet, right? And then they get all worked up about it, and then they go on the internet and research how to make bombs for fertilizers, and they're it's like those kids who read the Communist Manifesto and they're like, let's change the world, right?
Think about it. Maybe the remake is trying to find ways to make Avalanche more intimidating, because the way we get in the original game, we have like Barrett, Biggs, Wedge, Jesse, Tifa, and then Cloud they hire are the ones who are committing these acts. And you think to yourself, would someone seriously drop the Sector 7 plate to grab 4 to 5 people on it? And like maybe the idea is to make Avalanche more intimidating, more threatening with this militaristic type deal. So
That's a good idea.
Makes a little more sense for Shinra to be like, all right, let's drop the plate on where we think they're hiding.
That makes sense, but you could also change that around the other way to be like Shinra is just that callous, right? And maybe they want to redesign like the area. Maybe they want to make like they want to take that area and make it like a paradise of Starbucks and shit like that. So they're like, we're gonna gentrify the sector, right? So let's just drop the shit, blow everything up, and then we can build our Starbucks and our McDonald's, right? They don't give two shits about the people in the slums.
Yeah, I think that from the original, I think like the meaning I got from when they did that was his attitude was like, well, I kind of want to do this anyways, and it's just like a bonus that they happen to have a hideout there, so this is just going to work out. But I do wonder that like, if they are going to, when they change certain details, if they will change some of those outer details like the origins of Avalanche, because like there is going to be certain details that are just a little silly on the big screen, like one of which I've always wondered about was Shinra's sitting there searching for Barrett. They can't find him, right? They can't find this guy who like goes into this bar and like that's where his hideout is. But he's like a giant black guy, like one of the few black men you see in the entire game with a machine gun arm. Like you should know like immediately when you see this guy, like he's very identifiable, So like I gotta.
That's kind of the same with Cloud too, right? He has this huge sword on his back, and he's wearing like a soldier uniform. And I've said this in chat over at Resident Arc many times. Just like Cloud is literally like, sure, he's changed like the pauldron and stuff like that, but he's literally wearing a soldier uniform, and nobody comments on it throughout the entire game. When you meet Rufus is like, oh, you have the eyes of a solder, right? You have. I
also have the uniform.
I'm wearing the fucking uniform, dude. Like,
here's my name tag. Like
you're looking at my eyes. I'm wearing the uniform, right? It's so obtuse, right? It's so ridiculous. But
you know what would be a good idea though? If Barrett just like when he's not at like in combat, he takes off the machine gun arm. And puts it in a secret video game pocket.
Yeah,
and puts a hand on. He could do something like that.
Yeah, could have that would be better, but he's still very identifiable. But that would be more believable for sure.
Yeah, he is the only black guy there. So.
That's not right. There's actually another black NPC.
He probably gets pulled over like all the time. I mean,
there's one more black NPC in the game.
Yeah. So they probably get confused a lot in that world.
Well, in the original game, definitely, just because of his size and structure, like it is very easy to identify Barrett. But in this game, he's bigger. Like, he's still a big fellow, but he's not like what's the word to say, like cartoonishly big.
Yeah,
but they beefed him out definitely from the previous trailer. If you compare the two, right? And he actually has kind of like a toned, kind of tall, almost skinny-esque bigness to him in the first trailer, but they've made him more broad shoulders, and they've like given him a bigger chest. And if you look at his silhouette at like the 0.16 mark, he's actually quite huge, right? Because he's further away from the camera than the soldiers.
He's
But
already
he's
bigger
still,
than him. Yeah.
he's real fucking big, right? So when he's standing next to Cloud in this version, he's going to be real huge, right? Which is, I'm totally fine with that. I like Barrett being huge. I hope they have the scene where he like punches Biggs or whatever, and Biggs like hits the fucking camera. That's like
he like busts through the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Wesley Snipes in the 2015.
Yeah,
But
now he actually looks like Barrett. Yeah, this is that mint. People complaining about his voice actor, like drop dead. Like I love the fact that he has like he's like totally over the top, and that's fine. We need a character like that who's just off the wall.
I think
So
that's fine. He's always been known as a over the top, aggressive, and stuff like that. That would just be true to his character.
Guys, okay, I have to be honest. One of my first observations when I did see this trailer was I am one of those people that do feel that the voice acting for Barrett in this trailer alone is a tad bit over the top. I do agree that he does need to be that kind of outlandish character, but I don't know. There's something about like the way he let me see if I can play it real quick on my end.
Next move, boss. That's easy.
So we also need to see
when
how
he says
outside of like combat and conflict.
Yeah,
Like,
but when he says that's easy enough, like I'm just like it's almost cartoonish, and I'm like, but it's like I feel like they could have just toned it back just a little bit, and it would have been perfect. But maybe it's something I'll get used to.
If he was swearing, it would be better. If he was like,
you think they're gonna have like little symbols over his mouth when he cusses?
Yeah, they should just deal with the fucking rating. Like Barrett should just be going balls to the wall. He should just be going like, "Fuck off, Cloud." Like,
they true to the original, just have like a censor beep over him every time. He's like, "Mother."
Yeah. They should just go with the M rating. Like, I feel like they're gonna have to cut too much content from the original not to have that rating.
If they
well,
for Barrett, he deserves it. Give it to Barrett. He's the best man.
If their objective is to make Hat happy, they should make it M rating, and I would be happy. Mission success. That's all I gotta say. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. What did you all think about some of the other voice acting, though? I thought.
Well, if I can jump in real
go ahead.
quick, like in fairness to the Barrett voice,
yeah,
it is kind of like the trailer's chopped up in all these action pieces, right? And so we really only kind of hear him shouting like, I'm gonna take the load off your shoulders or something, and so it's like it's because it's during the bombing run, so it may be less over the top and like
context,
like when they get back to the bar, right, and things are kind of calmed down, then he may not seem like such a caricature, I guess, but maybe he still will. Like we need to see more. I think like the voice acting in the trailer I thought was pretty good overall, but every character has 2 lines,
Second entity in the chat kind of goes off your point too. He says Barrett has a lot of heart that's hidden behind his burly exterior. I'm looking forward to his softer scenes to see his voice actor's range, especially how he plays off Marlene. Like I think that's a good point. Like how is he going to portray in the less intense scenes some of those softer moments, even with Dyne, in Coral Canyon? It's just going to be. Oh, yeah, I'm excited to see how this plays out. I'm sorry?
Like when he's going to speak to Dyne, that's going to be a pretty intense emotional scene right there. Or like how he's going to react when Dyne's like, you know what, I'm just going to kill my daughter so she's with her mother. And
also,
how Barrett's going to react to that.
It's worth mentioning that there's actually quite a big distinction between those lines in the Japanese trailer and the English trailer, right? Like in the English trailer, when he says, "I'm going to take a load off your shoulder," it's very hard to kind of peg where he says that, but it becomes very apparent in the Japanese in the context. That's probably a battle line. That's probably something he says when you're doing like one of those Final Fantasy 15 kind of combo attacks, because in the context of the Japanese, when he says that, he sounds he says it in a way that sounds firstly it's different, right? That just let's just get that out of the way. The lines in the Japanese trailer are very different from the English one. The connotations and the context of them are very different. But like in the Japanese trailer, the way that he says it, it's very kind of like annoyed. It sounds like let's say Cloud is kind of struggling and Barrett is like, okay, Jesus Christ, man, I'll do it for you. That's what it sounds like in the Japanese.
Yeah.
And so like the context there sounds like you're setting up a combo attack or something, and Barrett's like, okay, Jesus Christ, Cloud, like you can't fucking do this. I'm gonna do it for you, right? And that's really, I think that's really nice. And if they're gonna put, but like the delivery in the English doesn't really convey that in the same sense. So I hope they kind of tweak that a little bit more. But if that's the context of the like you're in a battle, you're fighting, and then you're calling in Barrett to do like a team attack or a limit break or whatever, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna take the load off your shoulder, right? Then it kind of makes sense, and you can kind of you can appreciate the line in the context that it's supposed to be in, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all his lines in the English trailer so far just kind of seem like he's just in let's do this mode, like let's get him. And I'm guessing whoever put the trailer together, they probably just have a bunch of sound files, a bunch of lines, and they're just like, yeah, like we need a Barrett line that sounds like he's about to kick ass, so like that one will work. Like put it right
for
there.
Better or worse, I have like when I see the characters, I have the Advent Children voice actors in my head.
Yeah.
For them, and Barrett sounds just like he does in Advent Children. Like I said, for better or worse.
Yeah. I think he sounded better, to be honest, right? Because I feel as if they toned him down a bit in Advent Children, right? They were trying to make him a bit more like politically correct. Like he's not a racial stereotype, guys. But
yeah, it's like it sounds like the same voice actors from Advent Children, at least with Cloud, Barrett, and Aerith, but like there's something different about it too, and like it made me wonder. And I watched like Mike's video with Resident Arc, and he kept saying that like that's a different voice actor, and I was thinking to myself, like maybe are we sure? It sounds like Steve Burton, but it doesn't sound like Steve Burton at the same time.
It could be the voice actor for Noctis, or it could be Steve Burton with a couple of extra voice acting lessons.
Well, it sounds to me like, and this is kind of what was hinted at, I think last year during their little 30th anniversary art thing or whatever, where they were doing some reveals, was that it was hinted that, at least for Cloud, that in the first game that he was going to be a little bit younger than what we've seen in Advent Children and stuff like that. So when I hear his voice, it sounds, I don't want to say young like he's 12, but it sounds like he's a little bit younger than, the more mature Cloud that we would see in Advent Children. It sounds very similar, but just a little bit younger. That's kind of the gist that I got.
Maybe they got a voice director that's like not known for working with anime, because like every like Final Fantasy VII game or media that's had voice acting, it comes off like some anime voice director.
Yeah.
It works. So maybe they got like something, like maybe they got like a serious voice director for the English localization.
I would agree with that, because it like voice casting aside, I actually think it does sound a lot better than what we're used to from like Square Enix, basically. Compared to Final Fantasy 13, compared to Final Fantasy 15, I think this sounds a lot more grounded.
Or
it sounds more natural, and of course, Barrett is over the top. And let's is it Wedge? I get the two confused, Wedge and Biggs. Like
Wedge is the bigger guy.
Yeah, so Wedge is the bigger guy. So a lot of complaints around Wedge from the first trailer, right?
Warranted.
Warranted, sure, but on the other hand, Wedge is a pretty comedic character. So I felt myself being a bit forgiving of that, because I felt like Final Fantasy VII was a pretty like stupid game. I think if you go back,
Yeah, if I think with that particular character, if they had just not put that scene in there, like because like out of context, that voice was ridiculous, and like to have that in one of your initial trailers, that was just not a good idea.
But if you have a setup there, right, or if you have a couple of other scenes with him, like in the hideout, when they're you ride the juke machine down into the pinball machine down into the basement, and if he's like that consistently, and they do that well, I'm kind of. As a person who hates Final Fantasy 13, maybe I shouldn't say that I'm fine with it, but I'm kind of fine with it, right?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 is a game that's famous for its inconsistencies, I feel. It's a game that's kind of founded on its very divergent tone.
Sure.
And I think that, like, with Barrett's voice being all overdone, and maybe Wedge's voice being all overdone, like if it's done consistently and if it doesn't interrupt the serious scenes, I'm fine with that. It's a kind of Disney Pixar kind of thing, right? And if they do that right, I'm on board with it.
Yeah, and again, I think there's just the initial reveal of that, and obviously it's probably changed since then, but it has Barrett with this very graspy voice, like, I'm paying you more than a little. And then it immediately transfers over to, you're here to save the planet, right? And it's just like, that didn't flow very well. Like that wasn't like, that was just two dynamic contrasts. Like that wasn't how you set that up.
It's like cross-cutting a trailer from Blade with a trailer of a Disney Pixar movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like, what are you doing? Like that was just a terrible idea.
Maybe Nomura was onto something when he's like, quite the CyberConnect 2, your direction is fucked, right? Please stop doing that.
Nomura just saw that and immediately was like, no, we have to pull this back. This is a train wreck.
Yeah, dude.
Second entity and says I'd like Aerith's voice to be a little less soft since she's so playful in a lot of her dialogue. I never really imagined her having a super sweet voice. I thought the same thing initially when I first saw it. Like I felt like it was a little too, maybe like she was acting a little too young for her character model. But I kind of feel like if I played the game, I think I'll get used to it after like an hour or two. But I did have that initial observation.
I actually saw somebody make a really good point that they said that might be a setup, right? Because she says like, here's a flower, right? In the original game, she's knocked over and then she stands back up, and Cloud's like, I don't know, I can't remember if he says like, are you okay or whatever. He probably doesn't because he's an asshole. But like, she's like, there's a flower, it's only one gil, right? And you could purchase it or not. But here she like offers him the flower first. She says like, here's a flower.
You have like Keanu Reeves Cloud, who's like, oh, a flower?
Yeah, yeah. Like, and Cloud is like, oh, a flower, right? And it could be a really good setup if after he takes the flower, she's like, okay, that'll be one gil, mister, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh crap, I just took the flower and I have to pay her, right? And if they do it that way, that's pretty cool, right? Because that could be a very good delivery on her character, where she's kind of playful, and she's pretty proactive in the original game. They totally fucked her character in the compilation material, right? By making her this saintly
Mother Mary,
angelic,
angelic fucking character. But she wasn't like that in the original game. She was pretty like spunky and very
more forward.
Yeah, very
like she was more forward. Like if she had something on her mind, like she was just like, "Hey, Cloud, like,
well, she was
you're my bodyguard now. Like, get me out of this. I don't want to be here anymore."
Parts, like when you listen to her, it's like she's always soft speaking. She's like, "Yeah, this is great. I'm so glad you guys could come." It's like when she's always in that mellow toned voice, and it's like you gotta give her a little range of emotion. Like even when she's like being like sassy or cute or something, like when she's putting the disc into for the Tron world, she's like, bon appetit, and puts it in. I'm like, oh man, this is such horrible delivery of a line. Like, I really like if they have the same person on. I really hope the voice director they have just like better guides her. Like, be playful, be cheerful. You don't need to be in the same exact tone the whole entire game.
Yeah.
She sounded different to me too.
She sounded way better than Crisis Core.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah, I mean, when you start comparing it to prior works, it's like night and day. That's for sure. That's absolutely for sure. I was surprised that we even got to see her in this trailer, though, because I thought that was going to be a big reveal, just because her character is so iconic with all the way up to her end. I thought like that would be like one of the final reveals, and I thought it would just be her praying at a church or something. I was surprised that this was in the first trailer we've gotten in years that she would be in it. That I was really, really happy to see her and actually see dialogue and hear her voice acting and stuff. Like, I was really, really surprised.
Looks like they're making Tifa the big reveal.
Yeah.
For E3 this time, yeah.
No, they want to give a little eye candy with Jessie before we go to Tifa. And if I want to bring up Jessie, she looks very, very different from.
She actually looks like a girl. Like, it's amazing.
People compare her to the Scarlett Johansson. I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see that.
I don't know, man. I wasn't too happy with Jessie, to be honest, because I actually liked the original designs that they showed in the trailer of I almost said Jessie and James, the Pokemon, but I meant Jessie and Biggs, right? Like, I actually liked their original designs. I thought that because they had a little bit of that anime-esque kind of design to them, which harkened back to the original art. But now they're all like super realistic, look like normal human beings, right? And immediately I'm like, no, don't destroy my childhood, because I fuck off with that. I was raised on this everything with the sharp, angular kind of anime design, the big eyes and everything. So the moment you start touching that, I'm like, no, get away from me.
Yeah.
Compare the two right now, and she definitely has like a more uplifting, positive look to her. Like in the 2015 one, she kind of looked like other female.
She looked like an average children character in the 2015 one. I feel like she had like the really long eyelashes and kind of biggish eyes, but now she looks like one of the dancers in like a music video for some American pop idol. She has like the right makeup for like 2018, 19-ish American girls, and she just looks very normal, like a normal American girl anno 2018, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, like I'm not a fan of that. I'm sorry.
What I do like is that she is a little bit of a goofy character, and FF7, she has her moments. So giving her a more positive look, or like a more uplifting character type of look, may serve her better. Because I'm looking at the 2015 one, and I'm like, I don't see her acting like that. Like most Advent children, I don't see acting comedically at all. But in this one, like, design's a little, I found a little disjarring also, for how like radically different it looked. But I think at least this model, it can be more open to her having her lighthearted, more goofier type scenes.
Like, I'm gonna just keep on talking, because I'm gonna find this, because one thing I thought was very interesting is that she actually looks like when Advent Children was released, they made a CG render of Tifa in her original like outfit, if you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's very strange is that Tifa's Advent Children original Final Fantasy VII render face is near identical to the face of to the face of this chick, right, of Jessie. If I'm not, like, you could like overlap the two, and they're near identical. That's real weird to me. Like, why does Jessie have like the face of Tifa, but Tifa. Wait, what do I have to Google to make that appear? Because like that's really confusing. Because she has like the.
So you're just trying to compare Tifa's face to Jesse's
Yeah.
face, but like the
Yeah.
old one with the new one.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Because it's not Advent Children Tifa. It's like Final Fantasy VII Tifa, but in the Advent Children graphics.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like sometimes, like I have the hardest time with Google because like I'm so caught up in my bubble where like I'll go to find an image for Final Fantasy VII and I'll just Google like cloud PNG and then like I like slap myself in the face because Google just gives me a bunch of images of actual clouds in the sky. And I'm like, oh, of course. What would you expect if you Googled this? But like, I'm just like so in my space that like I like forget that there's another cloud.
I tried looking it up too, and the only thing I get is the Tifa design in Advent Children. I don't get.
Original. I don't know what I'm supposed to like Google to get this thing.
Well, while you're doing that, what do y'all think they're gonna do to redesign for Tifa? There's been a lot of hysteria over whether they're gonna actually keep her translate her body or her breast size and stuff like that, and if that would be obnoxious in the remake. And I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I think like that's just her character. Like I think they have to, you know, be faithful to the original, but.
Well,
I don't know.
I think it'll be a similar ordeal with Barrett, where they're not going to have like.
It's not going to be as bad, but it'll still be
out of their proportion. But I mean, they'll obviously be a significant size, probably. But I think it'll be more akin to like Dissidia or Advent Children, where yes, it's significant size, but it's not like ridiculous proportions either.
Yeah, because I can't imagine it would be just like the because it was pretty obnoxious in the original, and I think a lot of people just gave them a pass because it was their first 3D game. But yeah, for sure. Hyun, I pulled up that image that you sent us. Yeah. I have it on the screen right now.
Oh, if you go to like I don't know where there's a scene in the trailer where Jesse says like go have fun or whatever, right?
And in the new one.
In the new trailer, yeah. And okay. I was like, they look.
Oh yeah, right here. I got it.
They look freakishly similar, and it's like, yeah. So I don't know. Like I felt as if the redesign from the 2015 trailer, at least she had like her own look, and they were like separate characters. But now I'm sitting here thinking like this. I don't know what you did with Tifa, but I feel like having two characters that have like very similar facial designs is probably not a good idea, but
it is now that I'm comparing it. I do see what you're saying, that like it is kind of similar. I don't know.
They feel as if they're like in the same genre. If you get my drift, right? They're not obviously they're not 100% different, like the same, but when it comes to character design, I feel as if it's good to keep characters within sort of different spheres in terms of their designs, right?
Well, and they got kind of a similar vibe going on with you know, the gloves and everything like that. Obviously, they have to be faithful to the original, but
sure,
yeah.
But like I mean, in the original, Jessie had like I don't know, like her hair was like shaped like one of those hats, right? like I don't know that.
Yeah.
She didn't even.
So, to be totally honest, though, when I was a kid playing Final Fantasy VII, I did not know that Jessie was a girl for like several years. Like so, like there is room for improvement. I think, you know, that wasn't the highlight.
You know, this is something I noticed about Jessie. Like her chest plate is just like perfectly made for her, you could say.
Yeah, it's like the breast armor. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find this in the trailer now.
I'm currently at 20 seconds in the trailer, and it's got like a good close up of Jessie, and she's like got her hand in the air, and you can't see her full body, but
yeah, her Scarlett Johansson pose. her look. I mean,
She does look kind of like Scarlett Johansson, but I can't separate it from the fact that I had like a childhood friend when I was a kid who looks like almost exactly like this. So like I can't separate the two. It's disturbing me. I don't like it when like games and movies that are CG start like getting too close to real people, because it's always going to be
uncanny valley.
Uncanny Valley, yeah, that's what they call it.
Yeah, not necessarily just the uncanny valleys. Like, I just know that this is a fictional character that doesn't exist, that they look like a person that I know, and I'm like, why is this person in this game, right? Like, this is a person I know. They're not supposed to be here.
Yeah. Speaking of an uncanny valley, though, one thing I did observe from this trailer, and this is a trailer, right? So they might have just polished it up for this trailer, but even in like the FMV cutscenes and stuff like that in Final Fantasy 15, I noticed that like the lip sync was pretty good in the cutscenes, but like usually it just came down to like their lips would move and then it would stop, like when the dialogue stopped, and that was the extent of it. In this trailer, if you actually go back and watch it in the new one, you know, scene where Ares is talking, you can actually see her lips enunciate like the words and everything like that. It seems like a lot closer attention to detail. And one thing that's always bothered me in some of the other, especially in 15, was they made the character models look so realistic. So like I'm just like staring at their mouths, even in the cutscenes, and it's just like it's not really like it. Like that's not what you're saying, but like I hear this dialogue. It seems like they've kind of accounted for that, at least in this trailer. So I wonder if that's going to translate over to the actual game.
Yeah, I know in Final Fantasy 13 they reanimated the lip flaps, right? But not in the high budget CGI cutscenes, obviously, you know.
Right.
Those were the same. And so the actors did have to work around that, and it was kind of awkward sometimes. But
yeah,
it seems like they recorded their lines for the rest of the game, and then the animators went back and changed the lip flap to match.
And
so
I have a lot of
that. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say I have a lot of issues with Final Fantasy 13. But that specific part, like I applaud them all day, because it just adds so much polish to the game when you're playing it, when like it just matches up and like you get that much more immersed in the world, because these actually feel like real people, and I'm not like sitting there thinking about like, well, they did a crappy job with that. Like, you know, I'm actually just like being immersed in the story. So
yeah, it makes a difference. I don't remember if they did that for Final Fantasy 15 or not.
Yeah, probably.
I think they did. I think they did a pretty significant job with the localization on FF15. If I can give that game any kind of phrase, is that I think they did do a good job overall on the localization. But
yeah, but I mean, generally it came. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but going back to Final Fantasy 7 though, this does look like they've put an even greater degree of detail into it. Like I said, with there's a scene here with, let me pull it up on the screen so that way people know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I got her pulled up, and I think it's right when she offers a flower. Yeah, you see her lips right at, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but at 34 seconds. And you can kind of see them kind of pucker up a little bit. It looks like she's actually enunciating the words as opposed to just the lips moving. So that type of small little details just gets me excited.
Well, what I like the most is it's not just her lips moving. She has like full facial expressions while she's talking.
Yes.
And I think her face doesn't look flat when she's talking.
Yeah. So that just adds so much to, you know, to the game, because otherwise you just have like that Mass Effect Andromeda look where like the eyes are just like glued open and the mouth is moving, but like apparently something significant's happening. You're just like not even paying attention to what they're saying.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. My face is tired.
This is like a perpetual shock.
Stop it. one thing that I actually do like a lot about that is that Aerith's character, at least based on that, seems to be intact, right? Because even though it's different from the original game, Cloud here is clearly like, I don't give two shits about your flower. I'm probably a bit like PTSD'd from.
I just blew up a reactor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have better things to worry about than your fucking flowers, right? But Aerith is like, you can see him walk past her, right? He walks past her and he's like kind of trying to ignore her, but she then comes back around again, right? And she's like, "Here's a flower, right? Take the goddamn flower."
She's very aggressive with her salesmanship.
Yeah, and I love that because a lot of people don't give Final Fantasy VII credit for this, but the thing that's very interesting about Final Fantasy VII's cast is how often people can say it's tropish, but the people tend to forget that this is like the grandfather of a lot of the tropes that came after it, right? And in many ways, it breaks a lot of tropes because it has like Tifa, the big-breasted, like she wears a mini skirt and a tank top, but she's the actual kind of virgin, drawn back, sort of introverted character. And then you have Aerith in her long skirt and her jacket, who's like she's the virgin of the planet, but her personality is extroverted, right? And she's all out there. She goes after Cloud the moment she sees him, right? And she's flirting like crazy from the moment that you meet her. And that's like the total opposite of Tifa, despite the character design. So there's like there's a disconnect between the character designs and the characters that you don't often see, especially in Japanese media, because they're really focused on unifying character designs with the personality. So like you have a characters with long red hair, then they should have a fiery personality because they have long red hair. And so those two things are connected. And like speaking as a person who works in Japan with this kind of stuff, right? If you design a character in Japan and they have long red hair and they don't have a fairy personality, the person in charge will tell you to redesign your fucking character, right? Because they'll say that there's no connect between the visuals and the personality. And I just think that's real stupid, right? Because that's not how real people work. You can't just...
sounds like a very good formula for making unmemorable characters.
Exactly.
Right? If all the personalities always have to match the appearance, then
yeah, long gray hair, he's aloof, right? Long or like blue-haired chick, she's got like the tsundere thing going on where she's always like racking on the main character or whatever. Like you can always tie those things together, and I just think that's a really poor way of doing things. And Final Fantasy VII, to its credit, didn't do that. And so I hope they stick with that, right? If they ruin that in the remake, it's going to be like, no, like Aerith was not that kind of character. Don't do that, right?
Yeah.
From the trailer, it does look like she's a little like fun and talkative, at least.
Yeah.
So I think to keep it true to the original, they definitely have to have her be more extrovert instead of like the holy mother type of deal.
Well, look. I mean, in the original, she was not that angelic, right? I mean, she looked at Cloud and thought, "Okay, this reminds me of my ex-boyfriend. Like, I'm going after this." Like, and like, it was very clear, probably to her, that like this guy is very confused. I'm not saying that she was a bad person, but like whenever I replay the game, I think a little bit less of her as a character and her motives.
I like her, but it's like that famous line I remember from the original game where you talk about Tifa, right, as Cloud, and she's like, "Is Tifa your girlfriend?" And you can like pick, like, and you can be like, "No, it's not my girlfriend." And she's like, the moment you start denying it, she's like, "Tee hee hee, whoa!" Like she's all over that shit, right? You just opened the gates, right? And I just thought that was great. Like, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't realize that about Final Fantasy VII, and like the date points and how actually your responses matter. But for instance, the scene under the high wind with Tifa, you don't get that if you chose like the Aerith path. That doesn't happen at all. you actually focused on
Really?
Aerith. If you focus on Aerith, you don't get that scene. That it doesn't happen.
Huh? Because I just played it again on the Switch, and I did get that scene, and it seemed
Yeah.
kind of unfamiliar. I'm like, I don't really remember doing this scene before going to the crater.
Yeah.
It's like maybe it's because I did choose more Eris over Tifa.
Yeah, so
The last
like
time I played
the funny thing is that you have this like fan divide about like is it Cloud and Tifa or is it Cloud and Aerith? But it's like no, the problem is that it's neither, right? Because when they made the game, they made it so that you can actually make that choice for yourself, right? Who is Cloud really interested in? That's the real question, right? But he's not really interested in either of them. That's like your choice as a player. And it gets expressed in the narrative throughout the game. So if you spent all your points on Aerith, you're not going to get that scene. And it's going to be obvious that like it's Cloud and Aerith, like they're in love with each other, and then it gets cut short by like spoilers. Like,
Yeah, we're spoiling the game, guys.
yeah, sure. Like Jesus Christ, it's not like 1997 people play the game already. Like yeah, like it's I don't quote me on this because I might be wrong, but as a kid. When I play Final Fantasy VIII, there's a scene with Laguna when he's like trying to hit on the chick who plays the piano.
Yeah,
And
Julia.
I think, yeah, and I think that actually that scene too has two like branching paths where one he falls asleep on the bed and he doesn't like have a conversation with him because he's had too much wine, and then there's a different version where he has a conversation with her. And I have like these fierce arguments with my friends where I was like no, Laguna falls asleep on the bed. He doesn't have any conversation with Julia, right? And all my friends are like, no, that's wrong. Like that's wrong. And I remember having that conversation with my kids, not with my kids, with my friends about Final Fantasy VII as well. Everybody's like, oh, Cloud sleeps with Tifa under the Highwind. And I'm like, fuck off. Like that never happened, right? And because we didn't have the internet, right? And I was like all in Aerith. I was like 100% Aerith. So, like we didn't know this stuff when we were kids and we played the game, right?
Yeah, you just thought the way you played it is the way the game was. Yeah.
That's the canon, right? There are no other options. So,
well, I was
that's
with
what
you.
I like so much about the Cloud and Tifa relationship is like it wasn't ever direct. Like there are more direct moments when Tifa's trying to snap Cloud out of it in the live stream, and like he's mentioning that like he had a crush on her, he loved her, but like that's not really ever explored again afterwards. It's kind of like there's something in the air, but they're not direct about it, and I think that's a little more realistic on the relationship side because I can't see Cloud just going to Tifa completely breaking down like outside of the live stream, just being like, "I have fallen madly in love with you."
Well, and
like,
yeah,
it's like a little more grounded.
And I'm kind of with Hyun. When I was a kid, like I always thought like it's all Aerith, like this is who Cloud was interested in because that's the story I got right when I was a kid. But like since I've replayed the game several times, I've gotten older. I have realized that like you said, Eric, like they were kind of hinting that like Tifa is kind of like the one he's supposed to end up with, especially with the fact that she does give up everything when he's in the wheelchair and she's like, no, I'm just going to take care of him. Like she clearly cares about him as in whatever way you want to interpret that. But, the fact that like they don't spend too much time on that does make sense also because the stakes of the story at that point in time are so high that it would have been weird if they started talking about hey, like you want to go on a date or whatever, and it's like the world's about to end, like they had other priorities to take care of. But the way that relationship is explored in Advent Children, I always kind of felt bad about Tifa because she's kind of there just like leaving voicemails for Cloud and he just like is sitting there like moping still, like, and like doesn't want to have anything to do with her. It just always seemed very, very odd to me. So it's going to be interesting to see how they explore that relationship. Is it going to be more optional like it was in the original, or are they going to kind of direct it towards an actually established canon relationship? Like, I don't know.
It might depend on the budget.
Yeah.
Like I would love to have the little player agency and choice for the stuff that's not highly consequential to the story. Like
Mhm.
even at the beginning of the game, if you can choose to buy the flower for a gil or not, like let their I hope we get to choose that like in the original game so we could get like two different interpretations. But it doesn't like affect like how the whole story goes ultimately.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those little moments that you can choose and you can have like, what if I choose this? What if I choose that? Like little, like, to give a little player choice to get yourself more immersed into the story.
Yeah. That'd be really cool if they can bring that back, for sure.
Like
Dude.
when Aaron asks like, is Tifa your girlfriend? And if you decide to act like yes or no to it, then you get some little scene depending on what you chose, and then you go back to the story at hand.
Yeah, for sure. How did you all feel about the changes in the character model for Cloud? I personally, and I think Stan, this is a video you sent me from CYCU1, but it's kind of comparing the graphics from 2015 to 2019. I'm not going to play the video. You guys will have to go check that out. But I'm going to pull up a little screen from it that kind of compares the initial Cloud.
Yeah, Nomura sent Cloud to the gym. Looks like
Yeah,
got some shoulder work in.
yeah.
He
I
doesn't
mean,
Has more of a.
I'm not buying it, to be honest, right?
Man, yeah, you're killing me.
I like the new design. My problem is I don't really think it's a new design, right? Because
Okay.
I've worked extensively with these kind of projects, and the problem is that if you really align those two models, one point that is actually different, and I mean substantively different, is that if you look at this collar in the original model, the collar is here,
Mhm.
and then the new model it's up here. That's one of the substantive differences between these two models. But
So
90% of the difference between these models are purely lighting and like color saturation.
Are you referring to the original model or the 2015 model?
I'm referring to like the first trailers that we got, like the first
Okay,
gameplay.
yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about too. I just want to make sure.
When you align the two trailers, like really, and I mean like train your eye on his bicep and his area around his tricep, and
Yeah.
you will see that the outlines are nearly identical. Like they didn't really change those. Like this is almost 90%, 99% just lighting and saturation. Look real hard. Like I mean, real hard around like this area right here, when the two where the shoulder muscles end, and you get the tricep and the bicep. And you look at those two things; they're near identical. The only difference is that they look thicker on this new design because of the color saturation. They're not different.
I think that, like you said, that it's lighting and then colorization. Because he, like in the newer model, he does look like he has more color in his face. He looks less sickly, which I think just makes him look more healthy, which is only going to make him look a little bit bigger. But I do like the fact that he doesn't look like, you know, he's like a heroin addict anymore. Like he actually looks like, you know, he eats, he gets some exercise, he drinks water every day. You know, like he looks a little healthier
Anymore.
He looks more healthy.
He looks more like a younger Cloud now. He doesn't look like
but,
I don't know if they put it, Advent Children Cloud.
I like is that actually a good thing, right? Because when you think about the story, he's been stuck in like a test tube for 5 years, right? Or 4 years. And he gets out of the test tube, Zack gets killed, and then he crawls into Midgar like an invalid, right? And Tifa finds him at the train platform. She's like, "Oh, great, Cloud! It's a long time no see. Join a terrorist organization?" And Cloud's like, "Yeah, great. I don't have anything better to do. I need cash." And and like, I get what like CyberConnect were going for. This like Cloud is totally fucked up, right? He's been in a test tube for 5 years, right? There's no way in hell he's gonna look healthy. And then Square Enix are like, no, we like our pretty guys with the big swords, right? So they're like, okay, put some bloom on him, put some like color into him, making him a bit like so it looks like he's a bit more healthy. And like, I didn't like the way that he looked originally, and I actually like his appearance more now than what he looked like before. But
Mhm.
from a narrative perspective, I'm actually
Yeah.
sitting here thinking, like, was that actually like a good idea? Like,
Well,
like that was
Well,
that appropriate?
yeah,
they may
go
be.
ahead.
Well, I think maybe they don't want to spoil that aspect of the
Yeah,
Yeah.
story,
sure.
right?
They
So
don't want to be like ham-fisted about it. Yeah.
yeah, and they're thinking maybe like, well, everybody remembers Cloud as the badass soldier who comes in, jumps off the train, and just hacks two guys up, and that's what the trailer is more for, like a general gaming audience who may not even remember the twists, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
They
sure.
may not even remember the twists. So
Gee, Cloud, why do you look like you really need a cheeseburger right now?
Well,
yeah,
and I think Stan, you're exactly right. Like, and yeah, as well. Like, for story purposes, the original 2015 look does make sense, but like you said, they don't want to. It just works better if he looks a little more healthy at the beginning of the game. I mean, I have the image up right now, and I gotta be honest. Like, this image on the left, like if I got up in the middle of the night to get some water, and like this Cloud was there, and he was like, "Hey," like that face would like freak me out. Like, is this like a zombie? Like, is this
Like
a
a
Walking
crackhead.
Dead?
But that's the difference, right? If you actually, that's one of the substantial difference. If you look at his eye lines in the new design, they've actually given him very sharp eye. If you look at like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the angle, he has like an almost straight line at the top under his brow
Mhm.
in the new design. But in the old design, he had like a rounder arch, and the sharper look obviously is more closer to the anime kind of design, right? So you have like the upper arch is almost entirely straight in the new design, which makes
Yeah.
him look bit more Asian. And I've seen people complaining about that, but it's like, what can you do? It's drawn by Japanese people, but I mean, like,
Japanese character looks Asian.
This
Yeah.
is what I see when I compare photos. I see on the left on the original one, I can't tell what's going on with him. I can't see any emotion coming out of him. He's just kind of standing right there.
Yeah.
And like the one on the right, the newer one, you can see like concern on his face or
For sure.
like some kind of form of disappointment. He's not necessarily happy about something, but like, he's not like overly upset. He's just like concerned about something.
Yeah.
I can already see that in the face right there. And the one on the left is like anime face, video game face. You're where only his lips will move, but not his eyes at all.
Yeah.
Also
That's a
worth
good point.
mentioning that like another thing, if you look at his eyes in the comparison shot here, where he's like sickly, his eyes are actually kind of glazed over. They don't have the same expressiveness in terms of the lighting and stuff like that. So that's another place where you can lose kind of detail. Of course, if they're trying to make him look sick, the first trailer works. In my
Yeah.
and they probably were trying to make him look sick, but it's like, so the question becomes, what's better, right? Is it better to make him look sick because that's like faithful to the canon in a sense, or is it better to not make him look sick because it kind of punches you in the face with the
Yeah, like
twist?
the twist of like, oh well, he's not
He,
actually, he wasn't in Soldier, and in fact he was kind of a nobody, right? That then
yeah,
it would have more impact, because that's what I remember playing through the game was like, wait, no,
yeah.
like Cloud is awesome. Like, he's your badass protagonist. Like, what do you mean he never made it in Soldier? That's a lie. Like, that's gotta be a lie.
Sure.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too. That like
Finding the balance between that would be the best thing, obviously, where it's not like entirely one or the other. It's like just in the middle, right?
Just enough so that you get that impact, that doubt there, that like, where you're questioning, like, well, is Sephiroth telling the truth, or is what I've known so far actually true?
I think I think it fits a better narrative when you're led to believe that Cloud is this great first class soldier. So when you do find out that that's not all true at all, when we get to those scenes, it's more shocking. It's more surprising. You're caught off guard with it. If you keep getting really strong hints that that's not the case, like him being sick
Yeah.
or not being able to do what you think he's supposed to do, then that's like, oh well, now it makes sense because Cloud's been a thick, emotionalist asshole the whole way. But now, like but in the original, when we get to that point, you're completely surprised by like, no way, that can't be like, that can't be how it is. It's like Sephiroth is just messing with him, and in a way, he was, except he wasn't a Genova puppet or one of those guys in the black cloaks. He was just a soldier that was there and got hit with strong Mako.
Yeah.
So I like it that structure a lot more. I agree with you. Sam.
Also in this picture, I don't know if it's just me, but the picture on the right, the shoulders look broader.
Yeah.
And it may just be the angle that we're looking at the characters from.
Sure.
But the shoulders seem broader, and he seems to have more of that classic like V-shaped torso. At least it seems more pronounced to me.
Yeah.
Than the picture on the left, which kind of seems more parallel. Like shoulders and waistline are more parallel versus the picture on the right from the 2019 trailer.
I would agree with that, and also to add on to that, just the texture alone on the skin. I saw somebody in the chat say they preferred the original texture, which surprises me because on the newer one, this actually looks like skin to me, whereas on the 2015 one, it looked very plasticky to me. Very, I don't know, it just didn't. There was something strange about it, but on this one, it just looks like actual skin. So it just seems a little bit more, I don't know if realistic's the right way to put it, but it just looks more lifelike, I guess you could say.
Less gloomy overall, right?
Yeah, for sure. Certainly cleaner. It doesn't look like he just walked out of a coal mine, so that's good too. So.
Yeah.
Looks like we had both Hyun and Eric had to step away for just a second. They'll be right back. But man, this trailer though, it got me really excited. Initially, like I was not very optimistic about this game at all in any shape or form. Like I was just thinking this thing was going to be absolutely terrible. And then we got this trailer and like I'm just it got me like sucked back in. I'm surprised. I thought there was no way Square could get me back on board with this game. I was I was just a pit of negativity about this game and how terrible it was going to be. And then like we get this trailer and we got Barrett, we got Cloud, we got Aerith, then we got Sephiroth, that partial reveal near the end of the trailer, which for a story purpose, I can't really place it. I think this might be something additional they added. Because it looks, I suspect this looks kind of like, I don't know, like I don't know where in the story this could be because you see all this burning like debris and like a kind of a stripe with like a road and like Cloud's kind of like bending down and you see Sephiroth there and he's saying something like, do you want to kill the planet or something like that? I don't know. I'm not quoting him exactly, but I don't know where in the story this would take place. Other than maybe when you're about to leave Midgar, maybe Cloud has a run-in with him now. Unless this is where the his hometown was destroyed, or maybe this is a flashback from that.
Well, I'm hoping that if it occurs in Midgar anywhere, I'm hoping that it's in Cloud's head, right? It's an illusion. That would make
You
sense.
guys are talking about
Sephiroth's.
Yeah, we're trying to guess where in the story this would be because it seems like we've seen everything only in Midgar, and so Stan was saying maybe like it could be like a memory type thing, like he's kind of flashing back, or maybe seeing him in his head, because it's hard for me to believe that they're gonna play that much of the game to where you can actually see the incident, unless this could just be Cloud thinking back, retelling what happened in his hometown. But this doesn't really look like the city he grew up in, but we haven't really seen anything from it either in the remake. So
I really hope not, because one of the most awesome things about Sephiroth is how they first show him, and
With the sword?
by not showing him.
Mhm.
So you're left to wonder, what kind of person is this? Is this like a normal human being? Is it a monster? He just created a whole trail of blood of dead soldiers, like all the way up to President Shinra himself, who has a giant sword on his back. So that already makes you like worried or scared of what you're coming up against. So if you keep getting, it's like a horror movie. Like you're scared of you're scared of the unknown and the monster that is in the movie. But once you see the actual monster in the movie, it's not as scary anymore.
So what I want to do is since I just came back, I'm sorry, but like if you go to 0.55 and you look at just still it there, right? Here you see like beams in these are like concrete beams in the roof, right? And then the camera goes down, and if you then jump from that to 0.558, you can see the street paint from like this is actually like a street, right? And then you can see the beam on the left. That's like a support beam for like that you would expect in a tunnel or something like that. So they're standing in a street, right? That a 2-lane street for cars.
Right.
And then above that, there are support concrete beams, right? So first and foremost, the thing that I have to draw your attention to is probably like when you see the bomb. So now let's jump to 0.53. So the bomb that you're looking at here is obviously not the reactor bomb. Personally, like this is not happening in the reactor early on in the game, because the bomb is placed on a concrete surface. And the bomb in the bombing mission is placed on the actual furnace in the reactor. So this bomb in the bomb that is attached during the first bombing mission is placed on the furnace. It should be like a metal kind of background.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So this bomb. I've already discussed this with some people, but like this bomb is. It could be like the bombs that are placed on the support pillars for the sector, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be my guess too. Yeah.
So, like where Cloud is, where like he jumps out and rolls out, like right when the explosion happens. Then like, it goes to the street where Harris is.
Yeah, like where Reno is dropping the plate, basically, like that.
Yeah, later on,
it could be that bomb, but. The problem is that I think this is really deceptively edited, because once you then go to 0.
I'm sorry. Go if you go to 51/52, you'll see an explosion with Cloud and Barrett, but you'll actually see railing that looks like it's the top of that tower where you have that encounter. And then I would imagine right after this scene in the game is where they jump on that little rope overhang thing and kind of slide down across the city. I do think you're right that's probably where this bomb is being referenced.
Yeah, sure, but then it's deceptively cut, because when you jump to 154 or 155, you see that the explosion is happening, and you can see some kind of you can see that there's like a roof here, right? There's like a support beam, and then the camera pans down to where Sephiroth and Cloud are standing, and if you go to
you're like, what is this? Yeah.
And then you have 158 where you can actually see that they're standing on a street. And so it seems like they're in some kind of tunnel or something like that.
Well, and so, this could be two different scenes pieced together too.
Sure. It's probably very deceptively cut. And my theory here is that you have the Shinra thing, right? Where President Shinra gets killed and you see the sword stabbing him. And then you have like the highway chase, right? And then you fight I don't remember the name of the boss, but you fight a boss, right? And and probably if they want to do this right, you fight the boss and the boss explodes, right? And the street gets wrecked by the boss blowing up, right? And maybe in like the Inferno, just before you leave Midgar, you see this, right? And you don't see his face, you just see his back. And that can be like a setup for when you get to Calm and Cloud is like telling the story, right, about Sephiroth. And if they do it like that, it makes sense. But this clearly, just so people don't get worried about this clearly is not the reactor, because there are no streets inside a fucking reactor, right? That first, there are no pavement inside the reactor. And as I said, like the bomb clearly is not the reactor bomb, because like the bomb would be attached to the furnace and not to some kind of concrete. There's no concrete surfaces inside of the reactor, right? So this is pretty deceptively cut, and it's meant to kind of make. I think it's meant to make people confused and be like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Like Sephiroth, whoa, why is he appearing in the first reactor? He's not appearing in the first reactor. And if people think back, right, with the original trailer, there was a lot of people who were confused about the guard scorpion, because like you have the cut where Cloud jumps onto the train, and then they cut to like the guard scorpion, and a lot of people thought like the guard scorpion was following them and kind of jumping onto the train. That was like a common misconception during the release of that trailer. But that obviously, that's again, it's just cut in a really weird way that makes it look like that. But clearly, the scorpion is not literally standing on top of the train with Cloud, right? That's not going to happen. And I don't think, looking at this either, like clearly Sephiroth is not going to make an appearance in the first reactor, right? Where you're bombing the reactor and then.
Let's hope not.
Not going to happen.
Yeah,
like, chill out, people.
Yeah, I do think you're right that like this has to be like after the plate's blown up and fallen, and this is some of the debris, or maybe like you said, like from that boss, aftermath of that boss, there's some explosion and some debris. And the Sephiroth making an appearance at that point would be a slight change to the original. I really liked. I hope they still keep the original. First time you see any kind of interaction with Sephiroth is after you're in prison and Shinra's locked you up. You wake up in the middle of the night and the doors just open, and you go out into the main room, and all you see is a sword with like in Shinra, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, like, and they're like, this is Sephiroth, like he just killed like everyone on this floor. Like that was such an intense reveal. I hope that's still there. I just wonder, I guess you're going to see Sephiroth leaving the city maybe, and that's what sparks you to want to leave Midgard to follow Sephiroth, I guess, you know?
Yeah, but the interesting thing Ian brought up is like after they just start escaping Midgard is when that potentially happens. Is that the whole thing with following Sephiroth to begin with is Cloud or Sephiroth / Genova is secretly calling Cloud over like the other 13 Genova puppets or whatever they were called to follow along with them. So this could be like an early allusion to that. So when they get off, then you have the Sephiroth like saying what he says to Cloud, and then this the Genova calling is the thing that we're visually seeing instead of it just being a subtle thing that's done throughout the game. So it's kind of like a direct call to Cloud to come chase Sephiroth.
So it's manifesting itself as Sephiroth in his mind.
Yeah.
It's also worth mentioning that this is actually different from the key art. If you look at the key art for they had the Final like the 20th anniversary thing where they put out the key art. That was some cheap ass shit where they would just put like the Dissidia NT Sephiroth in the background. But this is not that Sephiroth, because if you look at his at 058, you can see his shoulder guards. And those shoulder guards are not the same shoulder guards. Like, he looks swole, right? He has, like, the big-ass shoulder guards. And they're the original design, and they're kind of expanded upon. Those are not the Dissidia NT shoulder guards at all. He looks completely different. When you look at his silhouette, he's much bigger. He's, like, really buff in this iteration of him. He looks totally different. So... this is, I don't know, like, I don't want to call it exciting, but it's pretty interesting, right? This is clearly, this is a different
take.
Yeah, he does look different in the Dissidia NT model. I definitely see the difference just from the shoulder pads alone.
I wonder if those are like his materia slots. If you look at like his shoulders at 058, like you can see he has like 3 slots on the. So if you imagine that he has like 3 slots on the back and then 3 slots on the fore, that would be 6 slots on the right arm and 6 slots on the left arm. But there are no materials in them though, but which could be like a hint that he's not actually Sephiroth, right?
It's not that it's an illusion that he's not actually there.
Yeah, because
it's all in Cloud's head, right?
Yeah, because like Cloud, this is something that other people have noted is that in the trailer you can actually see that Cloud has materias in his blades, and when he doesn't have, I don't know exactly which timing it's at, but you can see like the configuration of the materias changing depending on the screenshot that you look at, where like his Buster Sword doesn't have any materias at one point, and then it has one materia at another point, and there's 2 materias at a different point. So clearly they've actually built that into the game. So if you equip a materia, it's going to show on your actual character. And so here you have Sephiroth, but he doesn't have any materia. So maybe that's like one of the clever ways in which they'll do that with the new level of detail where this isn't the real Sephiroth, right? This is Jenova masquerading as Sephiroth. She doesn't need any materials, right? Because she has magic anyways. So
yeah, I'm still looking at the picture here, and even the Dissidia NT Sephiroth has like a blue cloak like around his arm and a belt that's like very Amano-like, like Yoshitaka Amano design like. I think they kind of loosely based that off of like Yoshitaka Amano interpretation of it, like a lot of other Dissidia characters are.
I feel like the Dissidia design has kind of like this ancient design, right? Sephiroth originally thought he was an ancient, and then he figured out he wasn't. But I mean, like, I feel as if the Dissidia NT design is a bit more esoteric, if that makes sense, right? Sephiroth being kind of like this esoteric thing, but this Sephiroth looks more like the soldier Sephiroth, right? Like he was a soldier first, and then this is kind of like his uniform. It seems consistent with the sci-fi look of the Shinra MPs that you see earlier on in the trailer. It has a very visceral presence, right? It's a bit heavier. And I like that. I think that's cool, right? He has like a physicality to him that that maybe some of the other designs didn't. So I like that. And he's swole, right? He's real swole in this. That's cool, right? I like that.
Yeah. So I was just trying to find some more trailer footage with kind of the materia that you were talking about, and
I don't know which. I think it's really close to where he fights the apps. That's what it's called, right? Let's see here. I'm gonna pull it off. I'm gonna find it. It's a bit of a doozy to find it. So see here.
Yeah, it's tough. You kind of got to go frame by frame in some of the cases for the detail you want.
I actually have it somewhere on Discord because obviously some fanatic out there already did it. I didn't have. I don't have to do it, but
you can. That doesn't matter. It's all right.
I think around 40 seconds in the trailer. There's like a good shot of the Buster Sword there.
Yeah, it's the problem. It's like he's like swinging it, and it's real hard to get like a good shot of this. Wait,
yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna go trail happy trails through my Discord.
21 seconds in, you get like an almost perfect shot of the Buster Sword.
With him running?
Like, there's one shot where he has like one materia in it early on, and there's another shot when he has like 2 materials in it. So I'm gonna go happy trails on my Discord to find the frick.
21 seconds looks like he has 1, and that's him leaving the reactor. running out of the reactor.
That's a really good image. That's good that you said that, actually.
Yeah,
Got to get the lighting just right. Yeah.
Settings. Jesus Christ, I need to go to like higher definition here, I think, because I'm like at 480. I need to go to like 1080p if I'm gonna be able to see this. So like at 021, he doesn't seem to have any materials in the blade.
It kind of looks like there's one in the lower slot, but it is hard to tell with the definition. Like high res screenshot would probably be easier to tell, but
well, regardless, it's in there, so it's just hard to see.
It. Like people found it, so
yeah.
This is true, people. Believe us. I'm not lying. It's true.
Yeah. So, how'd you all with that in mind, with some of the gameplay that we saw in this trailer, how'd you all feel about it? It looks like we've seen a kind of a repeat with or a callback to some of the moves. Looks like we saw one of Cloud's limit breaks. It seems like with the maybe cross slash with the various slashes on the enemy. And kind of obviously this looks like it's kind of reminiscent of a Kingdom Hearts styled combat. Obviously they've made a lot of changes. But I see 24 we have with Barret. You press triangle for back blast or a square for attack, circle for commands menu. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. I'm assuming you can just transfer back and forth between the characters. But I assume when you're not on the specific character, the other one's just going to move with AI. I wonder if you can program that to do certain things, or if it's going to be more team based. Or you press R2 and they'll get more aggressive. I don't know how that's going to work, but this does seem. Go ahead.
If you pause it around 25 seconds, you can see Cloud using a skill that might be Braver. He has it open, like on his. He has it open on his shortcuts menu, and he's like coming down with an overhead slash on a down soldier.
Yeah, so I got it at 24 seconds, and I can see he's in the air right now. I have it paused, so it's kind of goofy, but you can see Braver over here on the left. You just press square, and he comes down. So I think you're right. I think that's what it is.
That's interesting because his limit break bar, if the bars on the right side with the in the gold are the limit break, then it looks like maybe Braver is not a limit break skill anymore. Because later on in the trailer, when they use cross slash and it looks like Barret is using big shot, their limit break bars are empty, like they use them.
The question is when the actual bar depletes, right? Because if it depletes when the move is like complete, or when you select it, right? So it's hard to tell. But at least in the at around the 0.25 mark. The Clouds, if we can, let's just call it the ATB bar for now, or like the blue bar, right?
Yeah.
Half of his blue bar is depleted, right?
Yeah.
So, like my theory has always been, just a theory. It's just a theory, guys. That they've expanded limit breaks and skills, right? So all the characters now have a set of skills for melee combat that are uniquely their own, right? That are not tied to materials, just sort of because obviously, right? This is a bit more of an action-focused gameplay, and obviously nobody wants to play an action game where all you do is like the same 3-hit combo over and over again. So that's off the table. That would be really boring and nobody would like it. So you need to have at least some variety in the amount of skills that you can do. So you have a set of skills that are tied to like the blue bar. And then you have your limit breaks, which are your special attacks. So like the really amazing special attacks are going to be tied to the limit break bar. So maybe like cross slash, that's pretty over the top, or not that over the top, but it's over the top enough to be like a limit break. Braver is basically just you jumping up into the air and doing a powerful attack, right? And so probably they realized that Braver is not that special, right? It's not that amazing. We'll scale that back to like a normal special attack.
Yeah,
so
right.
You spend the blue bar doing a braver. You spend the actual limit break bar doing a cross slash, because that's a bit more heavy duty, right?
That's what it looks like to me too. Yeah.
I have a feeling cross slash is probably gonna be the first limit break, if it is a limit break, and they'll probably make something new for the maybe the replace braver. But I don't see something like Meteor Rain or Omni Slash being just like regular abilities.
Yeah.
Sure. But you
So,
also have, no, okay, go on.
I was going to say, if you go to, and we can go back to the Braver at 25, but at 47 seconds, that's where he starts doing what looks like a cross slash. And I don't actually see that as like an option in the commands menu. So I'm assuming this is maybe like an animation after we've selected it. And I don't see anything like lighting up like a limit break. So I do wonder how they're going to implement that. If it's just something he automatically does, or if a command prompt comes on for you to do it, or something like that.
Also, another good place to pause this is at 043. He's controlling Cloud. His Braver is halfway up, so this is not a limit break, and his 2 blue bars are filled, and he has a special attack attached to the triangle button called Punisher, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing that the triangle, like the triangle, like the Punisher here, is probably going to cost like a blue bar, right? And yeah, maybe Braver is within those, like within that. So like looking at the bars here, you have like the white bar representing the HP, and then you have the white bar with a slight purple tinge for the MP, and underneath that you have the limit bar, and then you have the blue bars, which I am just going to call the combo bars for now, because I'm pretty sure they're. I don't know if they're time based or if they're based on the attacks that you do to the enemies.
Mm-hmm.
But because they don't because they're not explicitly called like an ATB bar, and because they're sectioned off into twos, they look a lot more like sort of the combo bars that you see in Street Fighter and stuff like that. So I'm just going to hedge my bet right now on it actually being connected to how often you attack the enemies, rather than just
receiving damage.
Yeah, like so. Yeah. The limit break thing is going to be tied to your damage, like the traditional limit break. But the blue bars, I think, are going to be charged based on how often you attack the enemy. And maybe they'll charge over time as well, but maybe a combination of the two, right? So maybe it favors a kind of aggressive gameplay where if you put yourself in damaged way, your bars will race quickly. Or
this might be a small thing, but I'm noticing in the trailer, if you look at like where it's like Punisher and attack, like back at the 44-second thing, if you look at the attack, you can tell the person who's playing the game is like aggressively hitting the attack button.
Like, but
like
it's highlighted.
There's an input swing each time you hit it, or at least in some form of succession.
But it's not actually having like a great deal of impact, because this goes throughout the trailer when you see Cloud attack. Cloud seems to have like a standard 3-hit combo, right? He does 3 hits, and those 3 hits seems to be consistent throughout the trailer when you see him attack. And you can see the guy like kind of mashing the button, but he's still just doing like those 3 hits. So like it just seems to be like a person playing the game like a moron, right? Attack, but he's not really attacking. And one thing that I've noticed about this gameplay that's very different from, say, Kingdom Hearts or any of the other action-based games from Square Enix is that there's not a whole lot of running around here, right? Where in Kingdom Hearts, you seem to be kind of running around all the time to sort of set up your attacks or avoid being attacked. In this game, it looks more like the sense that I'm getting looking at this is that maybe you can run around, but essentially what happens is that whenever you press the attack button, there's a pathfinding kind of feature here.
Lock on, like he lunges forward to the targeted enemy and just starts attacking. Yeah,
and then you have like a set animation that cues every time you attack. So if you press the attack button, Cloud is going to zoom over to the enemy and attack, and then if you press it again, he's going to attack one more time. And it like that actually makes sense from a kind of strategical perspective, and from kind of marrying, say, like the
the old school ATB system with an action system, because like if you can actually kind of like, let's just say target an enemy and just press attack, and then Cloud zooms over and does his thing, right? Then basically that means that you will have more time and more leisure to browse the command menu, right? If you want to set up a summon or set up a magic attack, right?
Yeah.
I remember playing Kingdom Hearts and just being like infinitely frustrated by the act of holding the analog stick. I would hold my controller like this, right? And like I would hold the analog stick to run around, and then I'd just use my right hand to kind of like scroll through the frickin' command thing to find my fucking items. And I'd be like, this is the dumbest like setup for a controller I've ever seen in my entire life, right? And it's the same thing with Type 0 as well. Like you can't scroll items and fight at the same time. And so you have to run around and then use your other hand in this contrived fashion to like, I'm going to throw an elixir now. And it's so dumb. It's one of the things that I hate the most about like Square Enix action systems. Like they never get that right. And if they could
they could take a cue from Dark Souls from that, in terms of you just map an item to the directional button. If you want to change to a different one, you can use a button like L2 or L1 to switch between the items you want while you're fighting, and your thumb never goes off the analog.
Oh, that's worth mentioning. They actually do that here, where you can hold the L1 button, and then the face buttons change to shortcuts. So there's some place in this trailer, again, I don't know where Cloud, you can see his shortcuts that are linked to his L1 button, and he has like Braver and
I think 24, 25 seconds. You see L1 shortcuts. Yeah.
Yeah, L1 shortcuts, and he has like Braver and he has potions. So obviously, this is something that you can customize, right? Because there's if it wasn't, you wouldn't have Braver on Square and potions on what is it like Circle Square? Yeah, like because they're completely different categories. They're not the same kind of skills, right? You wouldn't have like potions on one place and then Braver on the other. Like, whoa, right?
You can also. You can also see R2, L2 for Tifa and Barrett. So very clearly, you just press those to switch between the characters. If you go to and we can come back to that, but if you go to 40 seconds, you'll see 40-41. You're fighting with Aerith, and it looks like to me what I would say is in the sewers after the cross-test scene and everything like that. Maybe it's somewhere else, but if you look at that and keep that in mind in context of where that is in the game, it's a couple hours in the original. And then if you look at the HP over here on the right, you see Cloud has 2,000 HP. Maybe that's an indicator of how long it's going to take to get to this point in the game.
I just had a revolution. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this is revolutionary. Look at like this is revolutionary.
Okay, I like it. Let's do it.
I just broke the code. I just broke the code. Look at 0.24 seconds.
24?
Yeah, 24. Now look at the menu. Look at it says L1 shortcuts and your Cloud, right? And Cloud has, if you look at the right, he has 1 bar out of 2.
Yeah.
And if you look at the actual menu on the left,
it's
the same. It
also has 1 bar out of 2.
Okay, so right here, yeah.
So like if
that was a good catch.
Braver, you're gonna use one of those bars, right? And Barrett and Tifa has like 2 bars, so you can switch to those and you can set up their skills and you can switch back. So this means that if you use one of those potions or one of that Braver, you're gonna lose one of those blue bars. But you can, if you choose the Barrett or Aerith, or Tifa, you can use one of those, right, and then change back or whatever.
Do you think you would lose a bar if you use a potion though? Like I feel like that's petty.
But I feel like that's the setup here. This is
that's what it looks like. Yeah,
it looks like.
In Kingdom Hearts, you can set up
straight up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead. Now I'm just happy.
I was thinking you can set both your ability / magic and potions in the same shortcut, and items don't require like a magic bar or use or anything like that. I was thinking maybe it could be something like that, but at the same time, it makes sense to make a command prompt out of items also.
I feel like this is a straight up ADB bar, man. I feel as if magic, potions, limit breaks, everything is tied to the ATB bar. The only thing that's not tied to the ATB bar is the attacks and just moving around.
So whenever you use an item or use a special skill that you've assigned to there, it takes maybe one from this bar. Yeah. If you spam it too much, you'll lose both bars, and then the only thing you'll be able to do is attack.
Yeah, so it's basically Final Fantasy 12, but with more animations. And like you're moving around, it's Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like to me right now.
I would be a fan of that.
That would be amazing. That would be absolutely fantastic if that's what they did.
Another thing you can see is if you go around 17 seconds in the trailer, you'll see some missiles like in an animation from the Scorpion robot, looks like. But we also see Barrett's bar is what we're calling combo bars.
Yeah, or
and
the
yeah, and you can see that one of them is partially built. Yeah. So it's not clear if they took a screenshot and it just like comes back instantly, or if you have to, if it's on a timer, or maybe hitting normal attacks like we were saying earlier, like helps charge it back up.
I think that's how it is, because the bar is not charging by itself. So I think when you hit like attack, or maybe you defend or take damage from an enemy, your bar is building up, and then you can choose like a special command to go on top of the attack. I think more my question is, how do you control all three with that? Like, are the other three just going to just like AI attack?
And that's why I wonder, is it going to be like a Gambit type setup like 12 had also, where you could like strategically position what you want them to do? Or is it just going to be some generic AI that's thrown in? Or maybe something like 13 where you have little like strategies where you can just say, okay, let's do this now. I don't know how that would work.
I'm going to be really unpopular here, and I'm going to say that I hope that they don't do anything except when you give them the command. So, like, you know, you're running
just
around.
Stand there?
No. They run around and they attack and they dodge, right? Because that's like the basic thing. But once the bar fills up, you have to like actually press like R2 and go to Barrett and give him a command if you want him to like cast a potion or do like his big, big shot or whatever. And then you just change right back and then you just give new commands, because that means that you actually have to be engaged with the actual gameplay at all times, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll be totally fine with that, because I understand that there's certain people who like the planning aspect of playing RPGs, where they're like, okay, I set up a gambit, I want to be like, I'm in the menu and then I just plan everything out and then I just watch it play out like a football game or something along those lines. But I actually appreciate being there in the moment and giving the commands, right? I'm more like, I want to be the general on the battlefield when it's happening. I don't want to be the person. I don't want to be Tyrion Lannister in the throne room, right? Okay, this is what the battle plan looks like. Okay, here's the battle plan. Let's just see how it pans out, right?
Well, you can still like in the middle of battle transition to that character and like change things. But yeah, I see what you're saying. You don't want to. You want to be more focused in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. The less time I'm spending in the menu planning the battles, and the more time I'm spending actually doing the battle, the better it is from my perspective.
I still think this is going to be a pseudo turn basis, because I don't see any dodging. I don't see any prompt to dodge. Maybe
there's a scene where he's blocked. It says blocked, but I don't see like an actual prompt that says dodge. Yeah.
Well,
so maybe the AIs are just doing like normal attacks until you go over there and decide you want them to do something different.
Exactly. That's switch back. Right? Yeah, so like they'll move around and they'll dodge and they'll block automatically, but like the bar will build, and then if you want Barrett to throw cure, right, you're actually going to have to like select Barrett and go cure, right? And I'm fine with that. That's what I want. And if they pace that right, that can work, right? And the thing that's worth mentioning here is that going back to like 0.17, when you're like this is from above, actually, when you're looking at it, it's firing the missiles, right? This camera angle is bonkers, right? Clearly, this is not like a pure action system, because
you wouldn't want the camera to be doing that if you're playing an action system. Like, imagine playing Dark Souls and then you're fighting whatever it is that you're fighting, and the camera just goes blah, and you're like, "What the?" Like,
I think it's a cutscene, like.
But it's
kind of like maybe you've whittled down the boss HP, and now he's using this missile attack, and that's kind of the cinematic camera angle that we're getting, like for the missiles coming out.
I really think this is a dynamic turn basis.
Exactly right. It looks like a kind of like they combine. You can move around, you can attack, you can block, like basic. But if you want to do like the skills and the items and the magic, you're gonna have to expend the ATB gauge and
manage your resources. Yeah,
that requires some kind of direct input, and that seems like looking at it right now, if that's true, that's like the perfect middle ground between the traditional ADB and like and an action system. That's like, I don't understand how you could do it any different, like better than that, if that's how.
I agree. That's a hybrid. I think works because it's not it's still giving everything of the traditional turn-based game, but it brings in a little bit of a dynamic that you can control the character and make it feel like you're part of some action sequence. I think this is what they mean when they're like, it's not going to be heavily action focused like 15 or Dissidia or Kingdom Hearts 3. It's going to be like very grounded combat still. And especially seeing I don't see any real active ways to dodge enemy attacks. I think it's still going to be like you're in a form of arena and the enemy's going to go around and attack one of the three characters.
That's the thing,
like
right?
An ATV gauge, like it usually works.
To corroborate this, when you look at go to 023, right? And he hasn't opened the actual command menu here, right? So attack and backblast, they don't cost bars, right? Because there's no bar there.
Yeah.
Like, but then when you go to like 024-ish,
yeah.
and he opens the actual command menu. You press circle, right? And you open the actual command menu.
It's letting you know, yeah.
Yeah, it's letting you know. Now you can see the bars. You can see how many bars Barrett and Tifa have relative to like the L2 and the L3 button. And you can see Cloud has only one bar, which corresponds. Yeah, I really think we broke the code here on this one, right?
It still looks fairly fast paced though, because I mean the fact that they're mimicking the bar system on both sides of the screen means they're letting you have to make a quick decision, right? So there still is that kind of real time feel to it. It looks like.
Yeah, sure. But another thing that's worth mentioning here is that when you look at the characters moving, because we're getting a lot of quick cuts here between the characters doing skills, right? So we're not actually getting that many cuts that you would like. If you think back to the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailers, you would see kind of like the characters running around in combat a lot between the combos, right? There are no cuts of that happening whatsoever in this trailer, right? Almost. And instead, what you see is, for instance, when Cloud is blocking and when Barrett is firing, they're actually kind of walking, right? Barrett walks and fires. Like he walks slowly. He strafes and then he fires. And Cloud walks. Like this is kind of like
42, 43 seconds, guys. That's what he's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. So like this isn't like it's not Kingdom Hearts, right? If you look at those details, that's not like how Kingdom Hearts battles flow at all, right? Because you're constantly moving about, you're constantly jumping and doing aerial attacks and stuff like that. I feel as if that might this might be it, right? That you can move around, you can do attacks and stuff like that, but it's kind of tied to a kind of pathfinding system where if you press attack, Cloud zooms over and whatever, and then you have to expend the bars to do like the skills and stuff. And there's room to kind of change characters, and it's not going to be that frantic thing from like the other action games where you're
just running in circles and mashing like on.
Yeah.
It is interesting at 24 seconds that the editor was very careful to make sure that Cloud was already in mid animation with Braver, so it wouldn't show that the ATV gauge was gone after he chose Braver.
It was already spent, like when we come to the shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably very deliberate. They didn't want to show. They're trying to not show, like they're trying to show and not show as much they can at the same time.
They want people making podcasts trying to piece it all together and do their own marketing for them, right? That's pretty much the idea.
But I think we cracked it. I actually think that cracked it. Like I was constantly like looking at the right and looking at the left, but you actually have to look at both of them, right, together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you notice like there's an overlap here, right? Because he's on like the shortcut menu looking for skills, right? And there's a bar there, right? And there's a bar over there, and like you thought you were clever, but you weren't that clever.
Yeah, let's say that was a really good find. I don't think I've ever noticed that until you brought it up. So that's awesome. That's got to be what it is.
It helps working in game design for like 5 years.
Oh yeah, that is right. Like Cloud's limit bar is gone when you use cross slash.
Yeah. And back to what Stan said too, in the other sequence where you have Barrett and his bar is partially down. If you play the actual video instead of just pausing it, there's a good 2 or 3 seconds where you see, and the bar is not actually like moving, right? It's not like it's in mid withdrawal or mid reduction or increasing. It's just a solid half bar too. So that makes me suspect that certain moves don't require an entire bar, perhaps. So
there's another detail here that I can't make it out, but like if you look at if you go to 0:47 seconds and you look at there's a blue font, like, so the limit break bar is depleted for Cloud.
Are you talking about like the little squiggly lines or whatever that's under the? Like, I was wondering about that too. Like, what do you think that is?
That's the problem, right? Because if we have like an HD version of this, like, because it says 10.
I wonder if what's supposed to go there is like words like HP, MP, stuff like that. Like if that's going to be like a placement holder for where like additional verbiage on the menus would go. But you think they would fill that out? Like it wouldn't take that much time.
Yeah, or maybe you just can't make it out because the quality is too low.
Yeah, well, the other characters don't have that, so I don't know. Maybe that's just letting you know that's the character you're controlling.
But you can also use this image at 47 as a means to confirm that the bar, like what the bars are related to, because obviously the limit bar is not related to HP, not to MP, because like Barrett has like 35 MP, but he's got almost no limit bar. Tifa has like 38 MP, but she has like almost a full like limit bar, and then Cloud has 45 MP, but he has no limit bar. So clearly, those are not the same. Just so nobody gets that, like tries to bring that up. Those are not the same. Clearly, the limit bar and the MP bar are two different bars, and the ATB bars and the actual HP bars are not different either. You can see that the thin green line over the blue bars that's the HP bar, and then the blue, those are separate. So yeah, I'm feeling confident, man. I'm feeling pretty confident.
I think we're all on to something. I think this is legitimately how it works. I don't see how else it would work. I think the only thing that still just comes up in my mind, and I'm sure we'll see in June, is how we deal with characters that we're not controlling. I just want to know how that works, and then I think it's pretty explanatory.
Yeah. Well, and really, honestly, like that's always been my biggest concern when I found out that it was going to be more action oriented, was just, having party based combat with it being action based. Like I've always run into issues where like the other characters aren't doing what I want them to do. Either they're just spamming special moves, or they're not reviving me when I need to be revived, or they're just being sluggish to use a potion on me, and I'm just like yelling at the screen like, what are you doing? So I don't know, the fact that they're adding these kind of details in, and it seems a little more nuanced, the fact that you can like transition between the characters seamlessly, I think that there's a lot of optimism from me for this gameplay.
Yeah, like I'm looking at this, and the thing that I imagine right now is that it basically plays like Final Fantasy VII, except that you're allowed to run around and attack.
I wonder if it'll have a wait mode.
Yeah, but but I don't necessarily think it would even need that. Like imagine that you're playing Final Fantasy VII as it is right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except that in the midst of battle, you're allowed to like run around with Cloud, and when you press X, he attacks stuff, right? And the other characters are also running around and attack stuff. But like the moment the bar fills, you have to like okay, go to the menu, find the vault spell, and then right. But of course they've added like the shortcut thing, so like it's going to be faster, obviously. But like that's what it looks like to me. It looks like you can run around, you can attack, you can dodge, you can block, but if you want to do anything above and beyond that, you're going to have to like go through the menu, right?
This is the evolution that turn-based needed. It wasn't like it's not that turn-based is outdated, but the companies need to think to themselves is how can we make turn-based more dynamic and more engaging? And it's stuff like this that I feel like brings it up to that level. It's like, okay, do you think turn-based battles are boring? Then like let's pick it up a notch and make it feel very integrative, make you feel like you're like in the full kind of control, like in a combat type of sense, but it's still turn-based. Like this is how you get modern audiences hooked into an old concept. Is making tricks around like that.
One thing I noticed that I know Heon also mentioned on Discord, like the day this trailer dropped, is it looks like the attacks, at least the standard circle attack that you can hit, has very little hit stun, like on the enemies, if any at all. Yeah. Meaning you hit them and the enemies, they take damage, but they don't stagger and they don't have an animation that is like actually.
That's a really good point.
That's something that pisses me off. It's the same with Final Fantasy 15, but you can rant on about that for a moment while I do my thing.
Well, so you can see it at 40 seconds, around the 40-second mark again, where they're attacking the turtle monster.
Mm-hmm. And he just kind of he takes the hit and he doesn't really push back.
Yeah, you can actually see if you do it really slow. He lunges forward. He lunges forward and he does 2 hits, and then he comes over the top with a 3rd strike. And the monster is actually able to leap backwards towards Eris, like even though he's been hit by those initial 2 slashes. And it's almost like he's gone. He's already leaping back, but that 3rd hit still registers. Like it still hits the monster, because I guess you initiated the animation before he had really vacated that spot. So it still gives it to you, but it's just interesting that the monster still has all his options available to him, even though you're there pounding on him.
I think this is a small caveat to the battle system, because, like, all right, if we take the traditional, all right, you got Cloud with the Buster Sword, Barrett with the machine gun, and Tifa punching. Like, if you have all 3 of them attacking a monster at once, I'm sure the animation would be miserable.
It would be.
So I think there is a small, there's a small little penalty you have to take out for doing something like this.
Yeah,
and it's like enemies have to be stagnant to an extent.
It's a balancing thing, because otherwise you get a Secret of Mana situation where you can attack the monster
stunned,
and he's stunned and he gets knocked back, and then your partner can hit them from the other side and gets knocked right back to you. And you can get this situation where the enemies are stun locked, right? And that's actually one of the things that made Crisis Core way too easy. That Zack's attacks with the sword caused hit stun to the enemy, but it was so much that you could launch another sword strike before the enemy could recover. So you could just sit there and just mash attack until the Shinra soldier was dead, and then it's like, okay, well, what good are all these Materia spells for then? If I can just walk up to the enemy and just hit attack, he's dead. On to the next one.
That's very true.
So I think it's a balancing thing. Like, the limit breaks look like when he uses cross slash in the trailer, you really see the monster like reeling back, and it's like it can't do anything until this animation plays out, and he takes the damage. But everywhere else, you see them kind of they're smacking at the enemy, and the enemies.
I wanted to in the context of that, like, wait, I'm just gonna have to find the actual second. Yeah, when he's fighting like the thing with the chainsaw blades, this is gonna actually have to require you watching the clip for a minute. It starts at 0:42. He's blocking, and then he attacks, right? He's blocking, and then just look at his footwork when he does that. Like, he's like drifting, like through the over, like there. It's like he's on ice skates, right? He's blocking, and then he starts the attack, and he just kind of zooms over, and like it goes back to what we were saying earlier, but about sort of how this is probably like there's a path finding system here, just definitely, right? You press attack, Cloud's going to drift over to the enemy, and he starts his attack animation. But like, tying it back together with like, I'm obsessed with visceral combat, right? That's my thing, right? Probably because I did martial arts my entire life. But I mean, like, I remember being a kid, and when my father used to take me out in the woods to like train with like the wooden stick, and one of the least satisfying experiences that you can ever have is trying to hit a tree with like a willow switch, because if you do that, it's like the tree doesn't budge, and you're hitting through it, and the willow switch just kind of bends, right? And then
like
you just go through
slapping it with a wet noodle, right?
Yeah, right, exactly, right? But on the other hand, if you take like a wooden sword and you whack a bush with it, that's real satisfying, because the bush just goes like, right, and the leaves all go crazy, right? And it feels real satisfying. And that's the difference between, say, Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 15 for me, because in Final Fantasy 7, even though it's a turn-based combat, you select attack, Cloud runs over and he attacks, the enemy goes like blah, right? And then in Final Fantasy 15, it feels like you have a willow switch and you're hitting a tree, right? Because the enemies don't really seem to be responding all that much to like the connectivity between your attacks, especially if the animations don't match up. And as you were saying earlier, that's kind of the thing that I'm a bit worried about watching this trailer. I'm like, I see Cloud doing the attacks, and the enemy is like engaged in an animation and is not responding. Like Cloud's Buster Sword is just like going through the thing, and it's nothing's happening, right? And I'm sitting here like,
I think it is like a balancing thing, like Eric was mentioning, that
if
you had all three characters all using their attacks on the enemy at the same time, or if you could even time it so that Cloud attacked and Aerith attacked and Barret attacked, and then the enemy would just have no chance to do anything, and the combat would get very easy.
Sure, right? Easy. So there's a balancing thing there too, but I was just looking at the animation where he's like resuming the thing, where he's doing so like in this particular footage.
Like 41 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, it's from like 41, I guess. He's blocking at first, right?
Oh, okay. You're talking a few minutes with the chainsaw, or with the saw?
He's the chainsaw. Yes, the chainsaw thing is from like 42, I guess. He's blocking, right?
And if you go back to what Stan said on that, like right when you see him doing the cross slash, like the enemy is actually reacting in that circumstance, and that would make sense, because that's probably going to be a more, a bigger moment, and it's going to be an actual animation.
It's also something you have to spend a resource on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It might make sense from a game design standpoint. The thing that you can mash and just do all the time would be the weakest option, right? It wouldn't like stagger the enemy or anything.
It just looks very, I don't know, like unsatisfying, right? And that's a worry that I have, right? In that, on one hand, they're doing an action system, but if we're right about what we just saw, right, it's not. It's kind of like like command based meets an action system, right? And so when you're fighting the saw blade thing, he's blocking, and then he presses attack, and then Cloud kind of just drifts over, and his feet, if you look at it, it's real wonky actually, because he doesn't actually like run over or step over. He kind of glides over in this really weird way, and then his feet kind of rearrange themselves so he can do like the slash, and then the thing that he's attacking is like completely non-responsive. It's just like standing there, and his giant Buster Sword is just traveling through it. And I'm looking at that, and that gives me flashbacks to Final Fantasy 15, because that was like every battle in Final Fantasy 15 basically, and that's like please.
Well, I mean, could they like? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how far in development we are with this game. It looks like fairly far, but is that something you think they could add at this point? Because I don't. I guess it just depends on when the game's coming out. We don't know that
I think
yet, so it's hard to say.
it'd be more important to make sure the commands, since you can only control what I assume only one character at a time with a command. So, like, say we get Death Blow Materia and put it on Cloud. Like, when you do a Death Blow, like the enemy needs to have some reaction to it to make it feel like an effective attack. And you can have the other character still hitting on it while Cloud does that, and the thing staggers back. But I get it when it's just normal attacks going up on it and blocking.
Sure.
But if we're only allowed to do one command per one character, then like if we use fire, it needs to push the enemy back.
Right. There needs to be some kind of visual relation to what you did. Yeah.
And if it costs a bar, right, of this combo bar or ATB bar, then that would make sense, like from a balancing standpoint.
Sure.
Because you spent a resource that you don't always have, and your reward is not just damage, but also some hit stun on the enemy.
It makes the impact feel more rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might just be something that you have to deal with, basically, right? There's just no real, like, I'm nitpicking, and I know I'm nitpicking, but like, I love the original game the way that it is, so it's kind of hard not to nitpick on those kind of things. But but if the system, if we got the system like now the way that I think we did, then and that actually looks like something I'd be interested in. Like that, I'd be okay with that from a gameplay perspective, right? That okay, like I'm on board with that totally. That's just fine.
Something interesting to point out about this saw blade enemy around the 41, 42 seconds.
Yeah.
Is that Cloud starts the animation or the clip blocking, kind of strafing to the left, and then when he blocks the attack, he takes damage. He takes 144 points of damage, and then Barrett gets hit by the same move and like gets knocked backwards and takes some more damage. So
that's a good point.
I wonder if certain weapons would maybe have like less attack power but more defense power. Like you know what I wonder?
You know, like how Tifa's limit breaks, she could pick up enemies and like slam them to the ground. How do you think she's going to do that in the remake, or are they just going to just take it out? That would be interesting to watch.
Just seeing her like launching something like that up into the area.
But it needs a Sabin kind of thing, where he German suplexes the train.
Yeah, I think of small stuff like this, like the other characters, but then you have like Vincent, who you can't control when limit breaks. Will they change that?
Oh, that's gonna be so annoying in this game. Having Vincent like float around in the battlefield, where like he's like drifting around as the freaking bat thing, and he's like, you have no control.
Are we gonna get like float materia, and everyone's gonna, is everyone gonna be able to levitate? I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Now that you mentioned materia, if this is how the battle system is, you can, for the most part, retain the materia system as it was in the original game.
That's why I think we've solved the puzzle, right? Because they can literally almost do the exact same thing, right? So, obviously you now have like a combo attack, but they can have like the double cut materia, and then Cloud does 6 attacks instead of 3 or whatever, right? They could keep almost everything the same when it comes to the materials if they do it this way.
Another thing I noticed on this same enemy is that at the start of the clip, Cloud is blocking, right? But he's targeting. You can see his target reticle. It's kind of hard to see with all the particles on the screen.
Yeah, I see it.
It's on the middle of the enemy.
Yeah.
And then when he lunges forward to attack, it actually moves to the the left side of the screen.
Yeah, to the arm. He targets the arm.
Attacking the arm. But there's no indication of like how he changed targets. Maybe the triggers.
Right analog stick.
That's a really good. That's the right analog stick. It's definitely the right analog stick.
Yeah, because it is right there at the center, and then when he lunges forward, it's over there on the left arm.
Yeah, but it happens so fast. I wonder if it's almost like it auto-targeted the closest target to him when he pushed attack.
Or it's just the right analog stick, right?
Yeah, could be.
It's just the right analog stick. You just push it left, and it just goes, right?
Yeah.
Because he is just mashing the square button when it switches. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what I wonder is what backblast is. That's on a normal prompt with attack. That's not part of
for Barrett, right?
Yeah.
That's also what Punisher is. I don't know what that is either, right? But these are new character specific attacks, like obviously to sort of to make the combat a bit more diverse, I suppose, rather than just using regular attacks and limit breaks, right?
Well, that's one of the few criticisms of the original game is that you just swap the materia on each character, and now they're all the same, right? Other than the limit breaks, there isn't as much.
There are stat differences between each character, but for the most part.
But no, specific abilities tied to each character, kind of like Final Fantasy VI. So I wonder if Punisher and Backblast is kind of their answer to that. Like Cloud has a skill that no one else has, and it's called Punisher. It deals extra damage under some circumstance or something.
Okay.
So that's the reason you might want to use Cloud.
I got it. Go to 40 seconds. Go straight to 40 seconds. You'll see a Cloud like kind of crouching back and holding a sword, right? Look at the Sahagin and how far away it is. Now press play. Now press play.
Zooms up to him.
Yeah. He zooms up to him from like 5 meters away, right? Yeah. This is like that's confirmation. This is straight up like a pathfinding system. You don't have to be anywhere near the frickin' enemy when you press attack. He zooms right over. This is like literally, it's literally the ADB system, right? Just that you can move around. Because like he presses the attack button, he's on the other side of the freaking room, and Cloud just like moves over all like just like in the original game. He just like zooms all the way over the room and attacks.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
In a weird way, reminds me of FF11 because you have to just keep attacking in 11 until you get 100 TP. Then you can use one of your bigger attacks on that. Now, obviously, this is a lot faster than that, but it does kind of fall in that same line. You have to keep attacking until you've earned your right to execute a bigger ability.
Yeah, if Cloud is just gonna, or whatever character you're using, is just gonna zoom right towards the enemy wherever they are. It doesn't matter the proximity. Then I wonder why they can't just add a little reaction to the enemy animation when they're hit, because it's not gonna really matter on the location of them on the screen. Your character will just zoom to the enemy when you press the attack button again.
But it's actually balancing, right? You're right. If it actually staggered the enemy, it would be totally broken, right? Because it
would be Crisis Core all over again. And just wail on the guy until he's dead, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah. Yep. Very true. This is looking pretty good, though.
Yeah, I didn't even think about most of this until I actually looked at it. But this seems to make sense, right? I feel as if, like people are comparing it to Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15, but like I'm looking at it now, it doesn't look anything like that when you actually look at it. Like this is,
this is the case. It's nothing like Kingdom Hearts 3 or 15. And then FF15 was full circle till you have to hit square. And then and you die.
You could warp strike. I mean,
And then
but
you could press L2 to just win the battle. I mean, if the
FF15 was trying too hard to please both audiences, made neither one really happy at the end. But like this is like okay, we know we want to make this an RPG. So let's make it an RPG, but we know the kids today like the action, so let's bring a little bit of action elements into it to make it feel dynamic.
I just noticed something new.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
No. But like, if you go to point 045, Barrett is doing big shot, and his limit break is depleted. So like, we have Cloud when he does cross slash, limit break is depleted. Barrett when he does big shot, limit break is depleted. But when Cloud does the where he does like the flip and the cut,
what we think might be Braver,
yeah, maybe that's not Braver. Maybe that's Punisher.
Could be.
That's not Braver, because like originally Braver was just like he jumps up and then he goes like ka-ching, and then he comes down, right? But this the one that he does here, he does like a flip and it's a lot faster. So maybe Punisher is just like he does like the flip thing, but when he actually does Braver, it's like this over the top thing where he jumps up and he comes like down, and because it's really strange that Barrett would be using his limit bar for big shot, and Cloud would be using his limit break for cross slash, but he would not be using it for Braver, right?
Well, I wonder if it's no longer a limit break, and they.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the other option, right? Yeah. But it could also be Punisher, right?
Could be. Another thing with Barrett when he uses big shot here, you can't see the enemy anymore because of the massive explosion, but you can see the target reticle.
Yeah.
Like, jump up in the air, meaning that this is a launching move. You know, it like launched the enemy way up into the air.
Oh yeah, that's a nice catch.
Yeah, it does go up. Yeah,
that's a nice catch.
I don't know how useful that would be. So you could like juggle the enemy up there. then we might be coming more Kingdom Hearts, but
yeah. If Square released a 2-minute trailer, we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves.
Oh man, I'm glad there is no jump button. I don't see where you can put one.
The X button.
It looks like each button is used for something.
But the X button isn't used for anything unless you press L1, right?
So I guess you would hit circle for command menu, then hit circle again for it when you scroll down.
So X is the cancel button, but if you don't. Yeah, but if you don't open the command menu, no, this is just clear as day. If you go to 0.40, and you look at it says command menu at circle, right? Cloud's bars are literally underneath the command font.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
This is we've cracked it. Like, this is no doubt about it. Like, you're not gonna put those those bars right underneath the freaking button if they're not connected, right? Like, come on, like, this is too obvious.
So you press circle, it goes to that command menu, like we were seeing back at like 24 or 25. Yeah, that's got to be what it is.
Absolutely. Like, you press L1, you get the short button. Like, if you press L1, it's also going to open the command menu, but it's just going to be like the 4 commands that you can attach to your face buttons. But if you press circle, it's going to open the classical ATB, like the classical select command thing from Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 7, and you're going to scroll through it, and you pick your items and whatever. Like, yeah. This is like, there would be no other reason for me UI design. I didn't design UI for 3 years to look at this and think that that's random. Like, that's, yeah, like, this is too obvious to be anything else.
Now, I wonder is when you're up on the command menu, will you still be allowed to like block and stuff like that?
Yeah, because like the attack button is attached to the square button, so it wouldn't matter, right? Because circle is like the old school Final Fantasy 7, like circle is the select button, right? So
I would imagine R1 is block, if I had to guess.
That's what I would guess too.
Put our money on that.
Because L2 and R2 are switching between characters.
And L1 is the shortcut, yeah.
L1 is shortcut, circle command, square attack, triangle Punisher attack.
Yeah,
like character related attack.
The only one we're not sure about is the X button. But I wonder if the X button
dodge
would be
roll.
used. It could be, or it could be to like
block.
Like put the weapon away and like disengage in combat altogether.
Oh,
just like disengage, and you could get.
Yeah,
out
we
of
didn't
there.
even think about that. That's got to be what it is. Yeah,
that's it.
It just pulls out your weapon.
In the last screenshots we got of this game, remember when Cloud was taking cover in a screenshot, and I'm wondering if they just...
yeah, and you could be like strategic, like he could hide behind something, or he could like engage the enemy.
I'm gonna find that screenshot. Like...
That's gonna be like,
you find it, send it on the chat. I'm gonna try to find it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just gonna be like maybe like a very particular scenario, or they just got rid of it altogether.
Perhaps the X button could be.
Oh, like, I found it. That's like the first thing that showed up.
Yeah. Here, I just found it too. I think. And he's like hiding. He's hiding behind a crate while a soldier like shoots at him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But like this is this is different, right? But I'm thinking that like that's how they thought about it first. But like if you press the circle button, that's the command menu basically, more or less, that's going to show up, right? That's you're going to have.
This has got to be like an earlier iteration of what they were trying to do.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm actually really psyched because I feel like the battle. This is the battle system I wanted, right? If this is true, like, but it's everything that I'm looking at here seems to indicate like I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, the menu looks a tad different too. It's all the like everything is right there, similar to Kingdom Hearts, but in this trailer, it looks like they have everything mapped out the buttons instead of scrolling through it.
Which is way smarter because
it's less going through the menus, scrolling to that elixir that you need, and
but like the fact that they have, for instance, like the fact that they have like the pathfinding thing when you attack, and the fact that you can change with the L and the R triggers, like the secondary triggers and stuff like that, is going to make everything real fast, right? Because you could just like press circle or a square to like get Cloud to like start attacking, and if the AI kicks in at that point, you can just press like R2 and then be Barret, right? And then you have like a cure spell mapped to square or whatever. So you press like L1 and then square, and then you do cure, and then you jump over to Tifa, and she has her limit break, and it's going to be like this crazy exercise of like playing, I don't know, like DDR or whatever, you know. That's amazing, right? Because it's like a turn-based system, but it's action-based, right? At the same time. That's crazy to me.
It's gonna be very, very snappy. I like it.
I'm looking more forward to the game now because I think this is I just think overall it's a creative way to approach this type of system. Like you want to please the Advent children people, want to please the OG crowd. You know, this feels like a kind of a meet in the middle type of thing.
Well, and the fact that Square initially said it wasn't going to be the traditional turn-based system, and then fans start thinking like, well, what is some context of what they've done in the past? What could it be like? Immediately, people thought, well, Kingdom Hearts, and not everyone's happy with that. And then 15 comes out, and its battle system is like, I don't even feel like it's done. Like I feel like it got like halfway there, and then they just stopped. And so like, there's just a lot of like examples of where they didn't implement it correctly. So I think the fact that people were so visceral about the fact that they were changing it, and the fact that like it would suck, I think makes sense. But the detail that we've gone into this, and just the various insights and observations we've been able to make on this, it looks like they've really put a lot of thought into this to make it actually feel strategic while still snappy and engaging like you would expect from a real-time battle system. So this looks really, really good.
One of the biggest flaws of 15 is the fact that you have little decision making in your combat, which makes it feel less engaging. Like this combat right here is like you're doing attacking, you're doing you're choosing abilities, you are using items. Like on the snap, and everything like that, and you have limit breaks that you're building up to, and you have all these buttons, maps laid out. It looks like there's, like you said, there's going to be a lot of strategy involved in higher boss battles when we have access to even more stuff than we do now. Like we're seeing like bare bones level.
Yeah.
Just imagine we have like everyone with all these materias and abilities and everything like that.
We haven't.
And you're
we haven't
thinking to
seen any
yourself,
material.
which ability is best to bring into this battle?
Ah.
You don't ever get that with 15. 15's like hold circle, till square, warp strike. Sometimes put better equipment on yourself so you can keep doing the same thing. Like this game looks like it's going to give you a ton of choices and very small intervals, which is a good thing.
So, gents, we've been at it for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and
wow,
it's probably getting pretty late for Heian over there in Japan. But I feel like we do have to address one thing. What in addition do you think they're going to show at E3 in June, and what are y'all feeling now about a release date? You think it's like next year, or do you think we're still a ways out? What do y'all think?
I think we'll get an extended trailer of what we got right now, and
because their presentation's an hour long, so I know that's not going to be all 7.
First half hour is probably going to be show their other games and stuff, and then the last half hour is probably going to be Final Fantasy 7, and they're going to explain how the systems.
If they're going to do a half-hour presentation on this game, that tells me that like this game is coming out way sooner than has been predicted by a lot of fans. Because that's a long time to spend with a game if it's not coming out for a few years still, right? This thing has to be coming out like Christmas next year if they're going to be spending 30 minutes talking about the game. Probably maybe even sooner than that.
I still say early 20, but I'm open to 2019.
Yeah.
Good call.
I'm thinking November.
Cautiously optimistic.
You think November this year, huh?
I'm thinking November because Square Enix likes to follow in the footsteps of the big AAA companies over here. Yeah. And November is the season you launch your big AAA blockbuster game.
Well, we thought of that about Kingdom Hearts 3. Look what that happened.
Well, but they planned for it, and it had to be delayed, right?
Yeah,
it had to
not
be delayed,
counting delays. So obviously, like if delays happen, like
it
delays
will happen.
It will happen. But like I would put my money at the guys place here, right? If the launch plan is going to be something like November, then if delays happen, it's going to be pushed back to February 2020, right? So anything between 2020 February and 2019 November, that's the launch window, right? For the first episode of the remake. That's I would put $100 on that.
I don't know. I was still thinking that it's still later 2020, but if you think about it, the later out it gets, the closer we're going to get to the PS5 coming out. They want to get this game out now, like sooner than they don't want to announce it with the announcement of a next console underway. That's just not going to be good. So
I'll put $5 down on.
$5.
I bet $5 that they're going to release some mediocre, not great maybe Final Fantasy related title this year, but they're going to add. But how they're going to sell it to people is add a demo of FF7 Remake and have it just be like an opening bombing mission.
Yeah, so it's just like a small thing. Like I don't know if you're familiar with the Maximilian dude. He's like a great fighting game guy on YouTube. Like he has a great channel. He's a great guy, right? He was watching like the new trailer. And the thing here about Maximilian dude is I know that he has contacts to Square Enix because he gets review copies and stuff like that. And he has contacts, right? But at the very end of his reaction video, he says, "They've made reservations. I'm gonna play this at E3, right?" And he's like, he gets real crazy about it. So I will say that they'll have there will be a playable demo of the bombing mission on the E3 floor. I'll put my money where my mouth's worth. I'll say that they'll have a playable demo on the E3.
I think that game is probably at least past its alpha stage.
Well, and
Or, like,
okay,
in the midst of a town.
and to tag onto that, that brings up the quote that, or the tweet that we had from Nomura, which basically here, let me pull this up. He said like one sentence, but the big sentence that he said was, most of the plans are already in place in the run up to launch. So please bear with us a little longer until we can release more information next month. That means they actually have like a series of plans for promoting the game all the way up to a specific launch date in mind. Like, so this, like, you don't do that if you're not ready to move forward. So like, I don't know. I guess I still have a hard time believing that like we'd have something playable this summer, because like I'll like 2 weeks ago, like I was like contemplating whether this game was going to come out like in the next 2 or 3 years, right? So this is completely 180 from what everyone expected. You know.
Yeah, I was starting to wonder if it was going to be delayed to the next generation altogether with how long it was taking, and there was no information coming out whatsoever. But now I think we're going to get at least part 1 on PS4.
Very least.
And then they already said that the PS5 will run PS4.
Yeah, so no problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
they could just make it cross-gen.
Yeah, they could.
Also worth mentioning that, now I got stuck. My mind got stuck. So I'll just Jesus Christ, it's getting to me. So I'll wait until I get it back.
Yeah.
The only way I could see that the game doesn't come out this year is if their Avengers game that they're supposedly working on.
And that's what I thought. They were,
and then
they
it
were
gets pushed back.
Yeah, they were talking or telling investors that to expect a big sales increase later this year, and people were speculating, could that be the 7 remake? And a lot of people pointed out, well, Avengers is pretty big, so it's probably going to be that. But I mean, if it's not the 7 remake, then it has to be that, or it could be both of them. That would be
also
huge.
Like,
but
Avengers is big, but like movie video games are not big, right? So like,
I don't know. I don't really play movie video games, so I don't know if there's a big fan base for that. Or
like, it's gotten bigger with games like Batman: Arkham Asylum and Spider-Man.
That's true.
Yeah, but they're like exceptions because they're exceptional games, right?
Well, I mean,
it's not like people go like, I really like Batman Begins, or I really like the Dark Knight, so I'm gonna buy Batman Arkham Asylum. That's not really how that worked. I feel as if like everybody's like, oh, this is a great game, and it's also Batman, and they went and bought it, right?
Well, we all bought the game based on the Kingsglaive movie, right? I mean, you know, so that's why we bought it, you know.
I didn't buy it, so.
Well, I didn't originally buy Kingsglaive when I saw it, but it just happened to come with my copy of FF15. So, in a way, I did buy it.
And yeah, anyways, we can talk about that another time. But yeah, so I mean, I guess Eric brings up a good point that like the popularity of these types of games are increasing, but to me, maybe I'm just in my bubble. I don't play them, so I don't care. Like, so.
Yeah. Well, another thing to consider is that we've seen more of Final Fantasy VII Remake than we have of this Avengers game supposedly coming. So
that's true. That's a very good point too.
Also, I remembered what I was gonna say. Like, this is basically it's a repeat of Kingdom Hearts 3, right? Because Kingdom Hearts 3 did the exact same thing last year, right? You have the concert, and you had E3. You got the launch date, and then in that launch window, you got the game, right? And now they're doing the exact same thing. They've updated all their social media. They put Final Fantasy VII Remake on their official like Square Enix page, on their Final Fantasy page. They put it everywhere, just like Kingdom Hearts. Now they're going to have the concert. They're going to have E3. They're going to give us a launch window. And then it's going to get delayed, and then we're going to get it in 20.
So you're telling me I will be able to look forward to a Cloud Strife coffee mug from Burger King?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, you can already buy like Cloud Strife ramen noodles. I've seen that. So Yeah. So, but like I've seen some people point out, and I think it's a fair point that, and I think 2016, Square Enix was saying obnoxious things like the voice acting for the game is already done. We did see a gameplay trailer, and everyone thought, okay, like we're gonna have a playable demo, and then it was just silent for 4 years. So there's that other side of the coin. Is it could be Square Enix being Square Enix again and just giving us another trailer, and then we won't see anything again for after this next trailer. But I think it's different this time. I think we know why that happened, and I can't imagine they would do it again. So
I feel as if the distinction there lies in whether or not a company fucks up, right? And all companies can fuck up, right? So like it's kind of unfair to or like, okay, Square Enix announces something, then stuff goes wrong, and then it gets delayed, right? And then we're looking at something get announced, and then people are like, okay, it's not going to come out again because look at Square Enix. But it's like, yeah, but that's like predicated on them fucking up again, right? And sure, they could fuck up again, but that's not the conversation that we're having, right? We're not talking about when is Final Fantasy VII going to come out if it fucks up, right? Because that conversation never ends, right? Because I could just pause it over and over again, right? Then it's going to come out in 2035, but then they're going to fuck up again, and then it's going to be delayed to 2045, right? And there's no end to it. So we're not having that conversation. We're having a conversation about when is the game coming out within the context of them not fucking up, right? And I would say that within the context of them not destroying the game in some crazy house fire or something, the game is probably going to come out between November and 2019 and February 2020.
I think
to be fair to Square Enix, they only delayed Final Fantasy 15 once.
Yeah,
they technically didn't delay Kingdom Hearts 3. They just said they were aiming for winter 2018. Then the first official date they gave was end of January.
Yeah.
So chances are you may, at the worst, maybe see one delay of FF7R after they announce the official.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, you guys are turning me. I do think we're going to see an earlier release, maybe November. I still think 2020. But I think that's still going to be all predicated on whether or not we have a playable demo at E3 this year. If there's no playable demo, then I'm going to get less optimistic about the release date. But if there is something people actually can play, it's got to be right around the corner. It has to be. So, yeah.
At the very least, the developer will play the game. Like they'll have some guy with a controller explaining to you how it works. Like, okay, so how you see here, you have a whole command prompt menu.
Yeah. Please be excited.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, I hope they don't do like how they announce Lightning Returns. Like, I don't know if you saw that conference. That was the most cringiest thing I've ever seen.
When he brought out the roses?
Yes. And how inspirational Lightning is and how the series is. And I'm like just slamming my head on the table. I'm like, I can't believe this is a thing.
That would be so funny. Like, Nomura walks out on stage and he has, like, I don't know, like some kind of Tifa memorabilia. And he's like...
Kate Sith doll. Comes out with a Kate Sith doll.
Like, Tifa is very precious to me. This is a very important game.
They need to come out and straight out say it. Just tell people what they want, and then there you go. That's it. Yeah. Like, even with like Kingdom Hearts, they were like, they had got these interviews with people that are like, who we don't care about. And they're like, we were so honored to be working with Square Enix on Kingdom Hearts with our favorite made Disney characters. Like, I don't care, show the game.
They have like a Final Fantasy VII like uncovered thing on E3, and last year or the year before that or whatever, they had Cersei, right, from Game of Thrones. So this year, and the guy from Breaking Bad. So this year they should have like the Dragon Queen and
Daenerys
and what's the other show that's popular this year?
It could be like this is what Cloud will look like when he's cross-dressed with the blonde hair and everything. Yeah.
What's this? Dracarys or whatever.
Oh yeah, where they breathe fire. Yeah. Yeah, so it's I don't know. It's gonna be wild, and I'm still waiting on that cross-dress reveal. I do want to see what Cloud's gonna look like. And
this is a Cloud I can see in cross-dress.
He's gonna look like Gok.
He almost looks like a woman, kind of. Yeah, so it's true.
They need some kind of cross like franchise promo material, right? Because that's all the rage right now with like the Avengers and Monster Hunter and The Witcher. So I hope they have a scene where Cloud thinks he sees Sephiroth and he's like, "Hey there," and he touches the guy in the back and he turns around and it's Geralt. And Geralt just goes, "What's like? Who the fuck are you? Like, get off of me!" I was like, "Oh, sorry, man. I thought you were."
Oh man, I hope they don't go over the top on the marketing and just do all these stupid crossovers. Like they did Assassin's Creed and then the ramen noodles and
Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry would be very cool. Like they should have Dante in this game. I feel that I would be on board for that. Like Cloud again.
Final Fantasy 7
Dante with
Dante
Vincent
from the Devil May Cry series and Funky Kong.
He has like the gray hair, right? So Cloud is totally convinced that this guy's like Sephiroth clone or whatever, right? But it's Dante, and Dante just starts dancing and shit.
This is a horrible idea, guys.
No, it's a great idea. Come on.
You just see Nomura watching us right now, like, oh man, that is a good idea. Get Capcom on the phone.
Yeah.
I see that harder, that kind of stuff being harder to be put in FF7 for what it is. Of course you got like Midgar in the upper sector where like the luxurious lifestyle, but I think those type of stuff would kind of like get your mind away from it, at least in 15. Like they set it up so that kind of stuff can happen for better or worse, but I don't think that kind of stuff could happen at all.
I don't know. There are some like very off the wall scenes, especially where you have to go and into the love room or whatever, where you got the little girls with the bees and they put makeup on your face. If you look in the little keyholes in those rooms, there's some very odd things going on in some of those rooms. And like I'm just thinking that like this stuff like that cannot possibly translate to the new game. Like they will cut that stuff.
I just don't see the team of Avalanche going to Burger King after they blow up Sector 8. It's just all I'm saying.
Dude, if they put product placement in there like that's going to be just no.
This needs to pick up a fry with his machine gun.
Or he's just like Gladio when he was talking about the ramen noodles in the game and it was like so forced. Like he's like crispy taste, it's fantastic.
That can get so like weird within the context of Final Fantasy 7, right? If they had, I don't know, like explosives, like they're blowing up the reactor and they put C4 on the reactor like furnace, and it's made by some kind of American military like industrial complex kind of company. It's like sponsored by some kind of Blackwater kind of thing. That would be
some actual military like civilian military force.
Yeah, the political response to that would be hilarious. Just watch.
Well, didn't they raid some kind of Al Qaeda camp and they found like Advent children on like Bin Laden's computer or something like that? Like I saw
he had Final Fantasy 7 the game
on his computer,
on an emulator on his computer.
And people were like thinking like, wait, terrorist organization, like did he like get ideas from the game?
Bin Laden was like America's killing the planet, man.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, like so all right, we're going off the rails though.
We're like Final Fantasy 7 in that regards. We like to go off the rails. Mr. Dolphin.
Oh my god.
Never forget, Mr.
I will
Dolphin.
say, I wonder how long this conversation will go, and when once we get like all the details. Well, not all, but
we can
details
have
at E3. Man,
we should have like a 48-hour stream.
Just like it's gonna be like a 5.5 minute trailer, and we're just sitting here for like 13 hours. Like, yeah, but I don't know. There's all sorts of scenes that you can think about, like Red 13. When he's wearing the sailor outfit and he's like on his hind legs, like they can't do that in the remake. Like I would love it if they did. So
I think it's more likely they could maybe kind of try and disguise him as like a attack dog, like a Shinra attack dog, and then actually have him on a leash.
Yeah, that would work, and he's like getting pissed off. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would probably be better, because even in the original game, that was kind of just like he's got like a tail hanging out the back. Like clearly this is not a person.
Yeah, it just leads you into thinking how they're going to handle the more goofy, or they just take him out. Like you can do the cross-dressing scene, but then just I'm trying to think of like other stuff in the game.
Well, like when Tifa and Scarlet get in the slap fight and they're like slapping each other in the face, I feel like that's not gonna to make it, just because I don't know, that might offend some people these days, but yeah. So I don't know. Well,
or when Cloud gets massaged by all those burly dudes in the in the thongs, that's gonna be gonna be juicy.
And it's like black. It's black, and you just like Cloud's like ow or something like that. Yeah, you're like, what's going on here? Yeah. So.
And they're all in like the jacuzzi together. You have like Cloud in the middle. There's like 8 dudes in the tiny little jacuzzi,
like the rainbow in the background.
Yeah. That's gonna be good. Gonna be good.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
We're at 3 hours. Is there anything else y'all want to bring up? I know it's got to be getting pretty late over there.
June, please look forward to it.
Yeah.
Please be excited though.
Exactly.
That's how that's his body language, in like if he was like a blocky character, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody should make that Hashimoto in like the Lego.
Just have it do that. Yeah.
I think that'd be amazing if there's a DLC costume that turned the like
all the characters into like real size, like blocky characters. All.
Yeah, or at least they're like PS1 Battle Sprite counterpart.
I would buy that DLC day one.
They did that in Metal Gear Solid 4. You could get the skin of the MGS1 Snake.
Yeah, and MGS5 as well, right? You could get the MGS1 Solid Snake, I think.
Yep.
Maybe.
I think you could. Yeah,
you could. Like, there's the Phantom Pain like infiltration mission, and you look like Solid Snake from PlayStation 1. That's
yeah.
Gotta love some Kojima, man. That's they should get him to work on the remake. He would do it right.
Oh, I don't know. He would do some crazy stuff that would
too busy
really be scratching my head.
Game that won't ever come out.
Yeah,
you could throw some Walking Dead characters in the game.
That Cloud would be played by Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
All
right, guys. I think we should wrap it up here, though. Gonna probably our longest podcast, but some good stuff, good discussion. We're gonna look forward to the next trailer that gets released. Maybe we'll have to do a round 2 so we can really get in the weeds. I'm still impressed that we're able to kind of put the pieces together on the battle system. There's some really interesting stuff in there. So I think a lot of that credit probably goes to Heian with his initial observation with the bars. That was a good observation. So
that was pure luck, pure drunken luck.
Yeah, well, can't hate on it. It's a method that works.
That's how they developed Final Fantasy VII in the first place, right?
Yeah, hey, if it works, it works. But all right, guys. Appreciate y'all coming on, Heian and Stan/Dude McGuy.
Sure. Coming on.
Yeah, really appreciate it. That way we can add some extra observations. I think you all definitely found some stuff that we wouldn't have. And other than that, I guess we will catch you all next week. Thanks everyone for watching. Take it easy.
See ya.